Good evening, welcome to the planning board, May 22nd, 2019. And we have a new member here, Bruce Freed. His first time here, and welcome.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoy it. And there's 4 of us here. Bob Watts is out so far, so we have a full plate here tonight. So as our planner, John Cassell, has told you. So we'll try to be as quick as possible. And when the audience does have a chance to participate, try not to repeat what has already been said so that we can move along and get as much accomplished as we possibly can. So, board, let's start with the minutes. May 8th.
I'll make a motion, if you'll hear it, Madam Chair, draft minutes, motion to approve the draft minutes for the May 8th, 2019 planning board meeting as written.
Second?
Second. Any corrections?
Want to note that those do have our regulations included.
I had one on number 41. It was just a motion to continue, and there was 1 abstain.
1 absent, 1 abstention.
Yeah, who was? I don't recall anybody abstaining.
What one was that, line 41?
Yeah, 41, that's all. But other than that, the minutes are real
Didn't
good.
you abstain from one thing? No.
I made that motion, so I doubt I
Okay.
abstained from it.
Yeah, you
but
did, yeah, exactly. Okay,
All right.
might have been another.
It's still
not
carried.
that critical.
It
Right.
carried. It's just a continuation to
Right.
the 51 to today, so.
Okay, are we ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to limit the duration of each of these 4 hearings tonight to no more than 35 minutes with a 5-minute extra if we need it.
I
If that
second.
makes sense.
I second it.
That'll do it. So that we can cut it off around 10.
Well, if we move along.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, for tonight's meeting, what I did, I published, gave copies, a handout of all the public hearings in sequence.
Okay.
So if we wanted to take turns reading the public hearings, we can do so. That's one handout.
All right, none of these handouts are for 554 North Street?
There is one handout that was received today, and it's a letter of one of the abutters, property owners.
Thank you.
It's 7 pages.
Wow, okay.
Who is that person? We need that kind of person, right, that much.
And this is 554 North?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should, I'll make a motion to open that.
And then there was another letter received email-wise also. Hey,
Moved, huh?
how you doing? Yeah.
In the chilly spot.
Madam Chair, while Mr. Watson catches his breath and joins us, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing for evidently this is, John, this is a minor modification to a definitive subdivision plan? I don't believe that's correct.
No.
So, was this the hearing, the notice?
You reading the first handout here?
Of your handout.
Yep.
Well, you're describing it correctly in the narrative, but that heading is,
Yes, we did continue that, I believe.
well, this is saying a minor modification.
Where's it saying that?
Minor modification
Oh, in
to
the
a
heading.
subdivision.
That's,
That's a typo?
that's a typo. It was
Appropriate in the advertisement.
Advertised properly.
Okay, and we have a cut sheet to prove,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
Right.
great. I'll make a motion to open the hearing for the special permit and definitive subdivision applications for the property located at 554 North Street known by the town assessors map 18, lot 39.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
All right. And who will speak for,
Hello. Is this the best spot?
For the cameras it is.
they're gonna have,
For the cameras it is. And folks in the audience should be able to see on the screen behind. And is that screen off to your right-hand side on, folks? It is not? It's off? Or it's on?
off.
Um,
Is this one on?
Yeah, this one's on.
Okay.
This one's on. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Greg Hockman from Williams and Sparagus, here representing the applicant, John Dunlevy, for the proposed court at 554 North Street. With me this evening is Rich Williams from Williams and Sparagus and the applicant, Mr. Dunlevy. Everybody knows where North Street is, obviously. This is one of the last houses on the way out of town towards Byfield. It's a bit of an eyesore right now. The existing house there hasn't been occupied for years, and it looks like a strong wind will blow it down. Mr. Dunlevy purchased the property as an investment property. He lives here in town. He's been in town for 23 years, with the hopes of possibly renovating the existing house and putting more homes on the property. So he hired us to help him through that permitting process. And after meeting with them on site, we thought the first logical step was to identify the jurisdictional resource areas. Just a quick glance of Mass GIS shows a lot less wetlands on site than actually exist on site. Because this area is mapped as a Zone 2, the setbacks from a wetland on this property are 100 feet. So knowing that, we wanted to get a firm wetland boundary in place that we could plan from. So we filed an ANRAD application with the Conservation Commission last year, and we wrapped it up last winter. The town hired a peer review consultant, Jillian Davies from VSC, to review our work. And ultimately, after a few adjustments, we agreed on a boundary, and the Conservation Commission voted to affirm the boundary and approve the resource areas that we show. And those are shown on the definitive, well, on the subdivision plans that we submitted to your board. Once we had a wetland boundary locked in and we had a good boundary survey, we started looking at some concepts out here. And during that time, Mr. Dunlevy quickly realized that he wasn't going to be able to rehab the existing structure. It was just too far gone. So that structure needs to be replaced. So we did some different concepts. We looked at a few different scenarios. We had, I'm just going to flip the pages a little bit. One of the concepts that we were going to go with was a 5-lot subdivision, which shows a road and a cul-de-sac here to serve 4 new lots, keeping the existing lot out front and proposing a house in roughly the same scenario. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's really no good way to show the board.
Behind you,
in.
it's right behind you. See if we can get that on the TV on.
So this was one of the scenarios that we looked at. This would have kept all work out of the buffer zone also. It would have pushed a lot of the work very close to the buffer zone. After looking at this scenario and doing a cost analysis, it didn't quite make sense. You know, a lot of the costs would have been absorbed to build a road of that length, and it would have deforested the whole site. Mr. Dunlevy's plans are to build a house out here or build a house in the existing footprint. So knowing that, we ended up with the scenario that we submitted, which is a proposed court. This does a few things. It allows an existing, a new house, roughly where the existing house is, to take advantage of that lot and the yard that's currently there. But the best part of this property is out back, which I'm sure a lot of the neighbors can attest to. It's very nice once you get out here. It's well wooded, it opens up, it's a nice canopy. So to try to stack more houses out here would have really taken away from the feel of the back property. Doing 2 lots out back here made more sense. They're giant lots, really large yards, plenty of room to move around, and to get there, it's essentially a glorified common driveway. This is the court scenario, and this is the scenario that we submitted. We're requesting a few waivers. We're trying to reduce the pavement width down to 14 feet from what the requirement is, where it's just 2 lots. And again, it's more or less a glorified common driveway. It just makes sense. And I talked a little bit about this. A new house would be built roughly where the existing house is. But because this is a court, and a court can only serve 2 lots, we had to keep the driveway access for that existing lot on North Street. So this court would serve just these 2 lots. Rich can talk to you a lot more about the drainage design that we came up with here, but I just wanted to tell you how we got to where we are, and briefly bring you up to speed with respect to that. And I did want to say that during the ANRAD process, after meeting with Steve Przymski, the conservation agent out here, he expressed the need to get access to some of the town land that's out here. The town has a piece right here. It's the long linear piece, and it opens up to a larger piece. Steve told us that he's been trying to get access from North Street to that piece for some time. This scenario offers that access. We're proposing an access easement right here that would allow the public to come in from North Street, come up the court, access across this easement, and get to the town piece. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of room for a parking lot with a nice kiosk or anything like that, but we are offering that access easement. It's pretty wet, most of the piece when you get back here, but if you can get across the wetland, it would give you contiguous access to the power lines that are out there, which someday should be a nice trail. We were hoping that this was going to be an easy one. The 5-lot subdivision would have been a challenge. The court scenario seems to make the most sense environmentally and just cost-wise for our client. And it doesn't attempt to just shoehorn as many houses in here as possible. Knowing that we don't have much time, I want to try to move the discussion along. I'm going to let Rich talk to you a little bit about the drainage.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just to add a little bit to what Greg was saying regarding the pavement width, this is a similar cross-section to Bartlett Court, and I forget the name of the street. There's another 2-lot court down on North Street near Jefferson Court. Thank you. It's the same cross-section. It's 14 feet of pavement and 3 feet of gravel on each side, giving a total of 20 feet that a vehicle could drive on. So it is similar to cross sections that the board has approved prior on courts. The roadway is graded such that it's uphill to about station 200, which is right here. So it's uphill, and then back down, and a low point at station 350, which is in here. And the whole road pitches off to a stone trench on the low side. This is low impact development techniques here to try and minimize the amount of drainage ponds and structures that need to be built and maintained in the future. So the whole road pitches to that trench, and it's got an outlet in a stone leveling area here, and another ponded area at the end of the circle, which discharges down towards the wetland, near the wetland edge. And the design provides compliance with Massachusetts Stormwater Management. We've provided a detailed report that's got the pre and post development, rates of runoff, our infiltration, and suspended solids removal, and all of the other standards that are required. And we would expect that the town's consultant, Mr. Graham, would be commenting on those. The project will also be served with public water. We've got a main to a hydrant at the entrance, and then services to the two new homes off of that main. And the power and cable TV and other utilities will be underground. And with that, I think we can open it up to questions and try and get through that process.
Madam Chair, does the board want to hold off until we hear from the public?
I would
or
say that would be a better idea to do that. We want to get the audience,
10 minutes in already.
Yeah.
yeah.
Madam
John?
Chairman, I just wanted to comment, with your presentation, you did get a copy of Mr. Graham's peer review report?
We did.
Okay.
We did. And I should mention one thing. We're going to respond to all of the comments that were provided, but one comment, which was the lot width, we did see that prior to the last hearing, and we had prepared a sketch showing how we would comply with that, but did not want to revise all of the plans. This plan shows what would the corrected line be, what the corrected line would be, I should say. Currently, it looks like this. This is the line. We would bend that, and that would conform to zoning. And I can pass around.
Is this one of the responses that you have for Larry Graham's report?
It's one thing that I thought I
one
should point out, because everyone has made a comment about that.
Okay. Perhaps we want to hold off until we
Yeah.
deal with everything that Larry
We will.
spoke about, and we can hold it all in one. Right now, it's
Sure.
really the first night we're opening.
Yep.
Let's take some public comment. I feel we should.
Yeah, and then later we can
Well,
figure out how to
we can
best
drill down.
schedule it for the next meeting.
We can drill down now.
Rick must think you're the chairman. It's me you got to talk to.
Congratulations.
All right, Rick. Thank you. Okay, who would like to speak in the audience for this proposal?
My name's Brandon Ivoni.
You have to come up. Please come up so we can hear every word.
Anywhere up here? Fine.
Sure.
Yep.
Have a seat if you
Okay,
like.
sure. I'll get comfortable.
That's the way.
I live at abutting property 540. I'm
And what is your name?
Brandon Ivoni, I-V-O-N-E.
Can John, could we look at where this gentleman is? Hopefully. My map, maybe. Really have to work on your power settings. The screen shuts off way too fast.
Okay.
It does, it shuts down way too quick. Change your power settings.
So oh, we had it. There we are. I'm this property south of lot A and 2. 540 North Street, right there. Okay.
All right.
Right
Um,
there.
So I'm a captain for the town of Newbury Fire Department, and I spoke with a fire chief of Georgetown, and my concerns are the NFPTA codes for a road width, and he shares the same concerns. He said express that to you, so I just...
Speak up a little bit, please.
I'm sorry. My concerns are the road width for safety. If there's ever a fire on one of those rear houses, I will be going to it, and there are certain NFPTA codes for a road, and myself and the chief both feel that for a proper structure fire and safety, they need to be followed. And he said he consulted with you guys. he wrote a letter.
He wrote a response, but he didn't explain what these numbers are.
Yeah, so he just cited the NFPTA codes for, hydrant placement, road width, curving, turn radius, fire apparatus, turnaround at the end. So he cited all the NFPTA codes for a road that he wants to see, and I share the same feelings with him.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else that?
Was there another?
Good evening.
Good evening. And your name, sir?
My name is Philip Cosman.
What is your address?
My address is 528 North Street.
Okay.
So I'm next door to Brendan, correct? Right at the cursor.
Okay.
So I have a few concerns about these proposed plans. One of them, my neighbor, Brandon Eboni, who just spoke about the firemen's concerns, are the same concerns that I have. I want to go a little bit more in depth on that, right? Because there is public interest and public safety in mind, because they're talking about public access. So basically, if these proposed plans were to be done by the laws written and correctly done, they wouldn't be up for discussion. There are these rules and these design standards in place for a reason, for the interest of the public and its safety. These waivers hugely affect that public interest and public safety. First and foremost, fire. In the event of fire, nobody plans for it. The planning board can't plan for it. It's something that happens, and you have to react to it in a safe manner. So 4 of these waivers affect safety, 5 affect the wetlands, the water runoff, the collection, impact to wildlife, and our downstream neighbors as well. I'm not against development. I'm not against improvement of an area or a neighborhood. However, I am against these plans and the idea of trying to develop an area where development only has one interest in mind, and it does not belong. Basically, I see this as someone is trying to jam a square peg in a round hole with disregard to public interest and, most importantly, public safety. My question to you tonight as a board is, what good are these laws, and what good are you as people trusted to govern these laws if these waivers are allowed when they don't have that simple thing in mind: we, the residents of Georgetown, the safety or public interest in mind? I want to talk a little bit about what they presented, and that is far less than what public safety and public interests are. I might be one of 5 or 6, but again, if you think about the impact that happens downstream for water, there's reasons why we're asking for 10 different things. There's reasons why we're asking for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections of ways to control water flow. There were rules, and now we're asking for those rules to be forgotten for that specific interest. And I don't see how that's fair, period. It's not fair for me if I wanted to do something. It's not fair for my neighbor if he wanted to do something. He did do something, and he put things in place, right? Water collection systems in place. I don't see any of that for the homes. So if a 600 square foot roof has to have a water collection system, right, to contain that runoff and that sediment, then these proposed homes should have the same thing, right? The impact is the same.
Out of 10 waivers, which numbers are you referring to?
So those waivers would be number 4, number 5, number 6. Number 7 and number 8 all talk about the collection of water or the control of water flow. Number 1, number 2, and number 3 talk about safety requirements, which would need to be looked at and reviewed by the chief of fire. Number 9 would also be something that would need to be considered bringing in public as far as lights and poles, if you're gonna have water, or a place for the public to drink water.
I'm sorry, are you talking about number 9 of the list of waivers that's on?
No,
the
number 10 is what I'm
Oh, number
talking
10,
about.
I'm sorry.
Yep,
My
yep.
apologies.
Number 9 is about trees and shaded space, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, again, I just want to go back to what I wrote earlier in my thoughts and
So you wanted all the waivers, you're not.
well, I mean,
agreeing
we're
with
asking,
anything.
it's like, it's okay to break the law, right? But I can break 1, 2, and 3, but not 5, 6, and 7. So I view this as it's a waiver against something that's there for a reason and in place. If we're gonna do something, let's do it right. Let's do it correctly.
Well,
If-
in order for the board to approve any waivers, it has to be for the public good.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't see how this is for the public good if we're gonna have public access, right? Where's public safety?
Right.
We're minimizing a road, so if a truck is going in, how's somebody getting out? And vice versa. Somebody could have a stroke. Who knows what that emergency could be, right? But if the road isn't wide enough, if it's not wide enough for a turnaround, that's why I'm saying it comes down to the basics of if there is a law there, it's there for a reason.
Okay,
I just want that to be considered.
thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Next, is there anybody? Take it.
I'm not in the bottom. My name is Paul Marchand. I'm the managing member of Marchand Associates. We're land surveyors and civil engineers in Stoneham. We've been asked by one of the neighbors to look at this subdivision, just make some comments as far as,
Okay.
looking it over a little bit. So I prepared a summary, which I believe will be submitted to you tonight if it hasn't already been submitted. Been submitted? Okay. And I'm just gonna run through it very briefly. I know you're stuck for time here, so I'm
Right.
not gonna dwell on it. The first thing I'm gonna talk about is, I think Mr. Williams already addressed that Lot 1, as shown on the plan submitted for review right now, does not meet the lot width requirements. I also confirmed that with the building inspector, Les Godin, that it doesn't meet the lot width or the lot depth requirements, so that lot needs to be reconfigured. And maybe the way he's reconfiguring it now is correct, I don't know, I haven't seen that yet. But that was the first thing I wanted to kind of point out.
Saying lot depth.
Yeah, the lot width,
Speak up, we can't hear.
Yeah, I'm having trouble.
I'm sorry. According to Les Godin, that lot as configured on that plan does not meet lot width or lot depth. If you look at this
Okay.
memorandum, I have a copy that was submitted to you. Now, in waivers, the first waiver that I kind of focused on was on 365-36.A, which is the offset of streets, the 125-foot offsets of streets. And if you look at the chalk up on the board, you can see Barry Way comes in to North Street at a somewhat of a skewed angle, and not directly across from Webb Road. It's only about 25 feet offset of each other. Webb Road, I count up, services about 15 houses. So there is a fair amount of traffic that comes out of Webb Road. Your cars turning right and turning left, opposite the cars coming out of Barry Way, turning right, turning left. So to me, that is a safety concern that should be avoided, if it can be avoided. And I looked at the plan for the proposed house on Lot A, shows a proposed driveway that if Barry Way were to be moved to where that driveway is, it doesn't show on that plan there, if you go to one of the other sheets, you'll see it, it would probably meet, or come close to meet the 125-foot requirement. So if that road were be moved, if you go down, right, see the proposed driveway for, right there? That is about 125 feet. So if Barry Way entrance was moved to that location, you wouldn't need the waiver, and you would be conformed to the requirements. So, is that clear when I'm driving? Okay. The next waiver that I kind of looked at a little bit was the waiver for the pavement width from 18 feet and the adjustment of the shoulders. Your court standards require a 22-foot wide width of where a vehicle could travel. There's 18 feet of pavement and 2 feet of gravel on both sides. If you do the math out, it's 22 feet. With a 14-foot and 3-foot shoulders, it's now 20 feet, so it's actually been reduced by 2 feet. And I think that, the court, and again, these are your standards, but your standards set up for a 2-lot subdivision, that there are 2 lots. I mean, that's the minimum standards you have in Georgetown. So it would be, I would think, a standard you would uphold in this particular case. Also, I did note that the peer review engineer talked about the possibility or suggestion that the driveway for the house on Lot A not be on North Street, but it be on Barry Way. If that were the case, then you'd have 3 houses being served by Berry Way. You'd be looking at a lane as opposed to a court, which has another set of standards, a little bit higher set of standards. So just something to point out. I should point it out very early, I just got involved in this like really recently, so I haven't done an in-depth review. So I haven't had time to really review the drainage calculations and the stormwater calculations, and I know Rich gave a presentation on that. Just looking at it, just conceptually, I'm struggling to understand how it could meet some of the standards, but maybe it does, I don't know. But I did know Larry Graham had a number of comments, like 6 or 7 or 8 of them about drainage that needs to be addressed, because it looks like there might be some issues there that needs to be addressed for drainage. And then the last thing, I'll just pointing this out, this is really just a point of information, because the entire alteration of this project exceeds an acre, this project will require an EPA notice of intent, which is, stormwater pollution prevention plan by EPA, just making it, out there. Any project over an acre.
That would be the
Doesn't that usually
Concom.
get, yeah.
It's actually not Concom, that's an EPA permit.
They have to file.
Stormwater
Yeah,
pollution prevention plan, yeah, it's really not a real difficult thing to do. I mean, I'm sure Rich has done it a million times, but they have to get that permit, they're required to get it by the EPA. Any questions for me, or am I good to go?
Nope.
All right, thank you.
I guess I'm the suit. My name is Frank DeLuna. I'm with Smolak and Lawn.
Your
And-
name is Frank
Frank DeLuna.
DeLua, okay.
And I represent Salvatore Bentoni at 8 Pearson Street.
Can you just get it where that is?
He would be,
Let me get back to that.
yeah,
I just wanna keep you clicking on it, John, so it doesn't look
Yeah.
bad on you.
Good idea.
you see where the slingshot is? Right north of the slingshot.
Keep going a little bit more, John.
That,
Oh.
that blank one up top?
What are we going, north?
Goes houses up from there.
There you go.
All right, that's, keep going up,
Right to the,
up,
the left.
This one.
that one, yes,
That one.
Yeah.
Is that
There you
yours
go.
now?
Oh, yeah,
yes.
This is the town line.
double line up there is
Okay.
Yeah, but who are you representing?
I'm representing Sal, the landowner there.
that doesn't seem to be named.
What, I don't see Pearson.
Where's
That
Sal?
doesn't seem to be,
The Pearson Lane is not on there. It's not written on there, but that's that.
It's this one
That's
here.
Pearson Lane right there.
that strip.
That's it.
Okay,
Okay, I'm not gonna reiterate what all the experts said.
okay.
But what I wanna do is, if you take a look at the standards, and it has been mentioned, in order to give a waiver, you have a two-pronged test. The two-pronged test is that waiver has to be in the public interest, and that waiver can't be inconsistent with the intent of the subdivision control law. We haven't heard any rationale as to why any of these waivers are necessary. This land can be developed, probably a one-house lot with a lot out front, so it would be a two-lot subdivision, without any of the waivers. And if they can't meet the two-prong test, then this board ought not be issuing the waiver. With respect to the parking area, the Concom has been, parking easement for access to the town-owned land. That is going to go right up in that area. Actually, it's gonna be on the applicant's land, so it's on the other side, tucked right in there. The Conservation Commission has been notified by Greenbelt, who sold the land to the town, that is really inappropriate. There is access to the town-owned land by a parking area that was designated in the restriction. That little isthmus going up is heavily wooded, has stone walls as well as some wetlands. And that would be an inappropriate access to the town property. So if that's what they're considering a public purpose, it's really not. And with that, I will stand on my memorandum. It's in your file.
Do you have a record of anything in writing from Greenbelt?
Concom would have that. I can also provide that.
They have it.
They do have it, yes.
Thank
It was
you.
in the form of an email this morning.
Email this morning.
Yes,
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
Madam Chair, I think we're at 35 minutes.
Okay, one more, all right? Just a,
My name is Shirley Robbins. I live at 564 North Street. I'm concerned about that way simply because I have had, and my neighbors have had 911 calls. There is no way one fire truck, one police car, and 2 ambulances can get up there and out without a problem.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Bovenrader, can you be as quick as Shirley is?
I'm probably the abutter that's got the most, most problem. But anyway, my name is Fred Bodenreiter. I live at 560 North Street. I own the property right along the driveway. And I'm a little concerned that the driveway is very, very close to my property line, and I am concerned about drainage. Those are my two main
Okay.
things. I really would like to see that home come down on Lot A. It's been an eyesore for a lot of years. But, I do have concerns about parking, especially this right away to the
Conservation?
conservation. I don't want people parking right on my yard. And I don't want people parking in front of my house to go take a walk through the woods, you know? Mostly what that would be hunters coming in. Because that's really only people back there now that use the property. And I've been here for over 20 years, and
Uh-huh.
I don't see people taking walks through there other than to go
No
hunting.
trails back
And I
there?
was one of them, you know?
No trails at all?
Oh, there is trails, the trails, are more so, well,
Further
it's been
back?
developed off of Wells Ave. You know, that's where most of the access is to back there. It's a lot of swamp. You can only go back a very short ways, and then there's no trails. You know, there's trails are, to take a walk, you're talking about taking maybe a 500-yard walk, that's it. Then you're in a swamp. You can't make it back to the railroad tracks back, you know, where the cinder bed is, other than go down Wells and walk in that way. That's really what most people do, and there's trails all behind there.
Okay.
I do see the idea of having the access there in case there was a fire. Right now, if there was a fire today, I think what they'd have to do is they'd have to go down Sal's driveway and then take a left right down to by the access there in order to get to it. And the fire hydrant is up the street.
Right.
So, I don't know. I do have a concern about turnarounds, you know, at the houses there. I mean, you go in, how do they get out of there?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
But I would like to see, I'm all for having it developed in that front lot,
Front lot.
the front lot.
You're all for the front light, okay.
I'm all for that. But there is a lot of water back there, there is a lot of drainage. I am very concerned about the drainage coming out down, when it gets down to North Street, where does it go? Goes in the ground, I guess. You know? I don't see any,
No drainage at all.
Is
No.
there
It's
a
not
culvert under North Street?
yeah, it's gonna come down North Street and it's gonna go into the pond.
Right, and then from the
In the
pond,
pond, it's gonna go underneath,
I think there's a culvert in North Street.
under the, it's gonna go into the pond, that vernal pool there. And then underneath the road.
Under the road.
That Verner Pool is on this site?
It's right, yeah, it's right on the site.
It's not on your site? It's
No.
on- It's on
See where Lot A is? If
Yeah.
you went down, it's between, it's just below that. It's actually part of that lot, I think. Yeah, it is part of that lot.
Madam Chair, could I just get a clarification? You're calling that a vernal pool. Could you just?
Yeah, it was
Is that
before,
what Concom has determined? You.
it was
gotta know
before
that,
when they were
right?
gonna put 45 houses in back there. That was all a vernal pool.
Just,
I can address that if you'd like.
Okay, if you can be quick.
Sure. During the INRAD process, while Ms. Davies was out reviewing our work, it was a bad time of year to view potential vernal pools. But we'd be shocked if it wasn't. So what we told the commission is that it more than likely
Oh,
was.
it is, yeah.
And we agreed upon a mean high water line to shed applicable buffers from. Since no work's proposed within the buffer zone anyways, it really doesn't matter. But for all intents and purposes, we need to treat this as a vernal pool because we
Yeah.
think it is.
So you're 100 feet all the way around this vernal pool?
We are.
And it drains down, there's like a brook that's dry a lot of the time, but it drains down almost the whole length of that.
Right now, it must be
Into
full.
the thing. Yeah, it is pretty full.
Yeah, I see.
But in the summertime,
From the road,
it
yeah.
dries up. Not the pool, but there's a trench that comes down.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, all the way back. I know every foot of that thing.
I'll bet you do. When we go on the site approval, you
No,
I used to skate on that pond as a kid
Yeah.
with
I thought you.
with Kenny Robbins.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my kids did too.
Yep.
Okay, I won't take any more of your
Looked a lot
time.
bigger then.
Okay.
I'm for it as long as there's no waivers. I was told there was no waivers. They
don't
didn't
like
need
it?
any.
Who told you that?
The petitioner. I said, do you need any variances or anything? He said, no. So,
Okay, Mr. Bodenrader, thank
I can
you.
respond to that. I was talking about conservation, that we were gonna be out of the buffer zones for all.
All right.
yeah.
Okay, so our time is up for this hearing, correct, John?
That's
Do you have
correct.
anything else?
I'd just like to go over a couple of things so we can properly schedule. You do have a lot of revisions that need to be made. We're trying to schedule what consists of 10 projects right now that the board is reviewing. We have a meeting June 12th and one on the 26th. The ideal situation would be for the revised plans that you're going to draft in accordance with Mr. Graham's peer review, to have those revisions done and have Mr. Graham look at those revisions and for him to comment for the next meeting. He's pretty well booked out too with his review. I'm thinking he could come back with us for the second meeting in June with his peer review. And that would probably, being realistic about the turnaround with revised plans, 26th of June for the extension.
could I, Madam Chair, I just, and I'm not sure exactly what the revised plans will look like, but I'd just like to say as one member of the board, I'm not looking at that waiver for the 125-foot offset. I can't abide by that layout of that road not aligning with Webb or not being offset further down south. So, I don't know how the applicant is going to revise their plans to come up with that. And
If I could comment on that, there are 15 houses across the street, serviced by Webb. But you're talking about 2 houses in opposition. So it isn't a 30-lot subdivision coming out to a roadway that isn't at a 90-degree. So it's more along the
But
lines
it's
of.
still not aligned across from one another.
Right, but I mean, the amount of
That's the
traffic
safety.
associated with Barry Way doesn't call for that. And any engineer that says it would,
It's only my opinion,
Yeah.
Joe. Just my opinion,
No,
just
if-
one vote.
and if there were
One
two-
vote on a waiver, that's all.
Okay, but if there were, say, 50 houses on either side of the roadway, you'd absolutely want them to line up
Mm-hmm.
in a 90-degree intersection. But, this type of 2-lot subdivision just doesn't generate that much traffic, that's an issue.
I'm sure if the car that is coming out that doesn't see that offset and gets hit by a car on North Street, that's not gonna change, it's just, that, the statistics will change, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that person's accident, might change their life, so. I'm a little concerned about
Okay,
that.
anything else, John?
No, I just think that the June 26th
26th.
meeting would be the most appropriate to come back and,
Okay,
you know.
can we have a motion?
Do we have, other things going on that night, John? Can I ask?
I'm trying to space
Not
these,
yet.
all
You're
these
planning it.
projects out better so that we're not having more than 3 public hearings. And right now, that would allow for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't wanna do this again.
No.
We're targeting 2, right?
June's good.
How does July look? How's our, how are we looking
How's
for
your
July?
schedule, the 26th?
Yeah, we'll be here for the 26th.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I'll make a
We need a
motion to,
signature?
continue the public hearing until July 26th.
June 26th.
June.
June 26th.
Oh, is July better?
No,
Would it be much
that's,
less?
the 26th would be appropriate for this.
June 26th? I'll make a motion for June 26th continuance.
Now, just to make sure we haven't missed anything, did we motion to accept, did I miss that? Accept the application?
Oh, I didn't hear that. I was late, but.
We already
I
did
think we-
because this is
I think that was
continued.
presented. Continue, we did it last time.
Correct.
Second the motion to continue this
All right.
26th. Because he wants to make money.
That's correct. Harry would have caught that anyway.
Last meeting we did.
It's not gonna put us outside your timing, is it?
Not,
We have a vote. We've got
Wait to
a,
vote.
90.
We need to vote it.
135-day decision deadline. Okay, so we have August 7th as the final date for action.
Thank you.
I believe there's a motion on the floor, Madam Chair. Second.
are we ready to vote?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
June 26th?
26th.
Thank you. Piece by piece, right?
All right, what's next?
Full Carlton Drive. Madam Chair, if you will hear it, I would like to make a motion to open the public hearing for the site plan approval of 4 Carlton Drive,
No, I just wanted to make.
shown on the Sounds Assessor map. It's map 15, lot 44.
meeting, it's still going on.
Thanks. Take it to the hallway. Being on or after 7 PM on May 22nd, 2019. I make a motion to... John, are we accepting this first?
Which one are we on?
We're, this is Carlton Drive, 4 Carlton Drive?
Yes.
Yeah, the
I'll
instruction.
make... Oh, okay, I was pulling up the handout. I should have read from the script. I'm sorry. I should have read from the script. Make a motion to accept the application for site plan approval for 4 Carlton Drive.
I
Map
sec-
15, lot 44.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, I move to open the public hearing for same.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye. All right. Your names and
Good
please,
evening.
Mr.
Rich
You're back
Williams,
again.
Williams and Spragus. With me tonight is Brian D'Angelo and Scott Menino.
Cambridge Ford, yes.
With Cambridge Ford here. And the reason that we're here this evening is to obtain site plan approval for an accessory building on Carlton Drive. Their building is the first commercial building on Carlton Drive on the left-hand side. This is the existing conditions plan. That's the building, pavement and parking go around the right side and the back. There's also an access on the left front of the property. The proposal is to construct a fabric, it's a Quonset hut building, behind the existing building and behind the existing pavement that exists on the site now. As you can see, the outline of the existing pavement we're proposing to construct this building, which is roughly 80 by 120, 81 by 120, and access that building from a door on the end of the structure. And I don't know if it was included in your package, the photos. Yes. We included photos. This application has been before the Zoning Board of Appeals and received approval from them for the accessory building use, which turns out is not allowed in any zone in Georgetown. So all accessory buildings need a special permit. This building is located entirely out of the 100-foot buffer zone, as well as the pavement is located outside of it. The proposed drainage for this is consists of two stone infiltration trenches. The runoff from the building will flow over each side of the building to the infiltration trench, which will have an overflow to the existing drainage system. We're proposing pervious pavement for the new pavement, so that we're not adding any paved surfaces that need treatment, because the pervious pavement does not require treatment. This building, and I'm not sure if it shows on the application materials, but it sits on shipping containers. Yeah, shipping containers. That's the support system for it, and the fabric part of the building is on top of that, so it will look.
So there's no foundation on it?
There's no
slab?
foundation other than the shipping containers.
Shipping containers.
What do you mean?
Correct.
So just a Sealand trailer, the steel trailers that you see, doors in the front, two doors.
The purpose for the structure is, and I don't know if you've been out there to take a look, but there are a lot of materials that are now stored outside. They have wood pallets and sheet metal materials that are stacked outside. They want to get those inside and off of the driveway, and that's the purpose for this. There will be no work that takes place in there. There's no electricity or other power to the building. Those buildings are just for storage, and those materials will be taken out and brought into the building to go
Where
through
is
the
the septic,
manufacturing
Greg?
process.
Where is the septic on there?
The front of the building.
In the front?
Septic's in the front, yeah.
Okay.
So no change, it doesn't create any change to the number of employees that they have or the parking that they have. It's simply to store the materials that are currently outside. And did I miss anything?
No, that's it, Rich. Just warehouse space, storage space for raw materials. Nothing toxic.
What kind of material? Just a slab?
2x4 lumber, that type of stuff. Sheet metal, HVAC accessories.
These are items that you would have there anyway, they were just out.
Right now, unfortunately, yes, we have no space in the factory, so they're stored outside, exposed to the elements, which poses a problem. Because they're exposed to the elements, plus it poses a traffic problem with trucks coming in and out of the parking lot. Snow removal in the wintertime is a challenge because we're moving product out of the way to plow the snow. This alleviates a lot of congestion, a lot of problems.
Did you have a permit from the zoning board for your existing building?
I'm sorry, I don't
Was there any
understand your question.
permit, was there any reason for you to be at the ZBA for the existing building?
No.
No.
So you didn't get a permit that way?
Well, we bought
special
the
permit?
building, no. We purchased the building from, I think it was Barry Associates, the existing building. We thought, as usually happens, is we had plenty of room until we moved in, and then we realized we didn't have as much room as we thought we did.
What's the size of that building? It was huge.
Yes, it's big.
And you, you
Well, there's
exceeded
room
it.
for all our machines, ma'am, and all our personnel, but not
That's
for
where all
the
our
raw material.
manufacturing takes
Right,
place.
not for the raw material.
What's the dimensions on that building?
It's a 50,000 square foot building.
We moved from,
It's 50,000,
buildings.
and this building is 9,700, but the lot is very big, it's 376,000 square foot lot, so, I would say it's not oversized for the property.
Well, the question, I went there before this meeting, and there seems to be like, I thought it was septic in the back, that
Events?
white, yeah,
Yeah.
white
Candy
pipes.
the candy
Yeah.
cane that comes up?
Yeah,
No, they're not-
what is that for? If you didn't, if you
No.
don't know,
It's-
it's on your property.
Septic system is definitely
No,
in
the
the front.
septic
Well,
system's in the
Septic
front, ma'am.
system's out front.
Well, I saw a pipe back there.
I don't think it's a candy cane, though.
Yeah, that's white.
There's granite bounds that, that mark the wetland properties.
I saw that.
Okay. Whereabouts on the property did you
Right
see
in the
the
back
cane?
on the right here. In the back to the right, where you have more property.
There is this, well, there's a sewer there from the groundwater drainage, I think, but there's no
That's
septic back
the
there.
drainage, yeah.
And it was surveyed, all right, I mean,
Is that off the plan right now?
What's
Further-
that?
Is that further beyond, on the northern side? If it's north, I don't know, we're looking at north there.
Well, there's
Vision
no,
north.
there is no, this is the tree line right here,
Mhm.
so there's nothing,
Nothing beyond that.
you didn't, we weren't in the woods, right?
No, I
Yeah,
was in
so
the,
everything,
I was in the
that's-
back in my car. I saw all your piles everywhere.
right.
And then there seems to be like a drop off, and the land is cut grass. It looks like, or it just didn't, the weeds didn't grow yet. But to the right of that is a white pipe sticking out, and I thought that was your septic
No,
drain.
there's definitely no septic system.
Is it
up
a
there.
vent for the existing, groundwater?
There's piping out there, but it's not coming vertical, so
No.
I'm not sure.
Could it have been on the neighboring property? Tilly? Could it have been on the neighboring property?
I
Near the,
Yeah, I don't
I
think
didn't
there's any
walk it,
septic
so-
out in that
Possibly
area
it was
either
accessible?
on Barry's existing.
Observation
Venus's
well?
Existing property.
Could it be an observation well? From past?
There are conservation markers out here.
no, those are usually sticks, aren't they? With pink.
Or is granite,
flags.
they're granite
Yeah,
bounds
granite.
that are above grade.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's not.
If there's a septic vent, it would be off the property, I mean, it might be over there, but it's not on our property.
So whose septic vent is it?
Well, it might be the neighbors.
It could be Barry Enos's.
Do we have an ortho
Okay.
But I assure you, the septic is out front.
It's absolutely out front. We had it cleaned before we, moved in, so.
Right.
Well, maybe you got some surprises back there you haven't
think
seen.
And,
How about the neighbors? Let's have an audience. Is there any audience participation to this project? Nobody's for it?
No abutters?
No abutters come?
we dealt with a few people during the
ZBA.
ZBA, but
Yeah.
that's very cool.
That-
I wanted
that's
to
great.
ask about that permeable pavement.
Yes.
We've run into issues in the past about that clogging up, and it does take maintenance. Do you have any other areas of permeable pavement on property?
no, we don't.
Not
So this
currently.
would be something new for you. Please, keep that clean, because when it fails, and if you don't,
Dug out and replaced like a septic system.
yeah,
No,
it's not,
we're well aware of that.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just wanna let you.
How are you gonna clean it? You need a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, it's a vacuum sweeper.
Yeah, do you have that?
No, but I mean, there's
We
enough
will.
subcontractors out there that we can, have
Yeah,
someone
you're
come
gonna
in
need
and,
that.
address it if need be, whether it be in a VACON type,
Yeah.
product that,
Yeah, this is standard maintenance that.
There's something here.
That white square?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see where, could you maybe,
Yeah, but it wasn't that.
that's in the detention pond. And I'm not even sure what that,
Any idea where you
There
were?
is
Tilly, when you-
drainage.
Is it a test bed?
No, we
I
didn't do any
don't know.
digging or anything out there.
No.
Whereabouts did you see it, Tilly?
Right there, right where it.
Where the
right
palm is?
Yeah,
Right
That?
there.
yeah,
Right there?
yeah. Only, to me, it looked a little bit further over.
That seems to be something square, like a
That's,
box.
that's the outfall for the drainage system that's all on our property. So we've got a detention
Oh,
pond.
is that the daylight? That's where the
Yeah,
pipe
so
goes to
that's
daylight?
the daylighted, RCP pipe that comes out of that and dumps into the detention pond.
Right, right, but that's not sticking out,
Yeah,
that's,
there's no candy cane there, though.
yeah.
It does look like it's gonna be very close to where you're putting
I think it's gonna be right on top of it, right?
the, yeah.
It looked like it was over.
Well, the building's to the left of that.
Right, we'll be left of
Yeah,
that.
we're right at the edge of
We're gonna
that. That's right at the edge of the
tucked on the
detention
far
pond.
side.
That
So
pipe
we're
is over
actually,
here,
Okay.
and the building's over here.
Just a quick
So
question.
it's about 25, 30 feet away.
Is there enough room to maneuver fire engines and ambulances and?
Yes.
yeah.
Madam Chairman?
This will help the situation because
Especially
it's
if we
gonna
can
free
put-
up
right,
the space
clear up
right
parking
now.
lot.
Right now, the back of the parking
it
lot is.
has-
Right now, the parking lot's full of, I mean, the parking lot now doesn't look anything like that, ma'am,
Right.
unfortunately. Yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff in there.
Sounds like you're doing good business.
We're trying.
Good luck.
Yes, John.
I just wanted to point out, there are two handouts concerning this project for tonight. Unfortunately, Larry's review, it's dated May 16th. I received it email-wise at 6:25 last Thursday, so I didn't catch that one. And that's a two-pager, and he has 6 issues that he highlights, none of which point out really any problem, other than I note on the plans, this is number 6 on page 2, that the HDPE pipe from the north side trench is not shown to tie into the outlet pipe at the westerly end of the proposed storage building. Rich, you got a copy of this?
I did, yes. Yeah, we will show that, but that's the only,
Yeah, he did point out in his report that the existing retention pond that's already built in is so large that it wouldn't have an issue handling the drainage associated with this proposed storage structure.
Okay.
And then Les Godden, he has a memo with 2 issues. I just wanted to make sure the board received reference to the ZBA decision, which was included in your staff report. And then number 2, the proposed building will be subject to construction control as per 780 CMR, which the building design and construction would require the services of an applicable registered design professional. So those were his 2 concerns.
John, would you mind,
Could I-
can I have a copy of that too? Before, or email it, or,
Yeah, I'll leave it.
that's
Could,
fine,
could we,
thank you.
Madam Chair, could we just bring up the second of Larry's points, where the ZBA has asked us in their decision to, review the existing outdoor lighting and look at it as part of site plan approval? Did I read somewhere here that there's no power going out there or something?
There's no power going out to that
So
building.
you're not adding any new lights
not.
anywhere out there?
And
You're only
everything-
gonna load and unload in the
Basically,
daylight
only in the
hours?
daytime, that's correct. No
Okay.
work out there at night at all.
So there's no new lighting coming on that
No.
No,
is gonna
we
bother
added,
Lights that are
anybody?
there are the,
we added lighting when we moved in October, or actually, we passed papers in October, but,
I don't think the lights were there, we just replaced all the
Right.
bulbs that were burnt out. It's basically safety lighting for the parking lot.
that was
only.
all signed off on and, you know, and approved, but we won't have any,
there's no
any
lighting
more
associated
added
with
lighting
this
to,
No.
No lighting associated with
So the
that?
lighting that you have will not cover that area?
it's not necessary, because we're
No,
only gonna be in
they're
there
not
during
gonna
the
be
day.
working in
We
the,
won't have any need to access it at nighttime or,
Looks like you have 2 light stanchions in the back here, and one here, and
And those were existing.
that was all part of the original building.
All we did was, replace the bulbs that were burnt out.
Novel concept.
And that was mostly for safety for primarily wintertime when it gets dark early. If, 5 o'clock it's dark, you still have trucks pulling in, guys working out there.
Madam Chair, could I just ask John to scroll that a little bit this way so we can see the what I believe are the only two residential abutters.
Yep.
So the,
Hold on
what would
one
it be,
second.
that way? Okay. The, when I think I came out Sunday, or I forget what day it was later in the afternoon, but, when I walked down along that row of trees that are on the left-hand side there, yeah, right near where John is.
The secondary row up high or down low?
Well, I walked right out to where it looks like your pole there is.
Yep.
And, I could not see that other house further back. It looked like there was a lot of screening.
Yeah.
When I was, where those two vehicles are parked, that we can see, right down on the subject property in the front.
Oop.
Right near,
Right here.
yeah, those two vehicles, I was parked roughly there. I was just able to see that house right there.
Yeah.
Is there any way to beef up the buffering, maybe a planting that would obscure what that person sees? And again, I didn't see it when I was standing where the hand is, or a little further over. I saw it when I was out in the street. But yeah, they're right about there.
Towards Carlton Drive, Father, you're asking about increasing the
Yes.
screening towards the main road.
Well, just, there seems to be more than that big, I wish we had a laser pointer or something, but, John, hey, there you go, see that blocks a lot of the view.
And then we've got the arborvitae's on the lower level as well as the upper level.
Yeah.
That was part of the initial, approval process when that building was built.
Anyway, we could add another line to that back line, what would it be, the easternmost line? No, I'm thinking further up from this,
Down here.
they don't go a little bit left, John, and up.
Oh.
Yeah, if,
For what
In
purpose?
this area.
as a visual buffer
For,
for the house that's right there. The abutting property owner. Site plan review is basically all about preventing nuisance from your parcel to an abutting parcel. Normally, on the right-hand side here, not a problem.
just
Industrial,
some
industrial.
white pines or
You're
something
not
like
gonna,
that?
you're not
or
gonna bother.
Something that's gonna stay?
I would think it would be another set of dense arborvitae. Maybe we can get some suggestions from Rich. I'm sure his team has people that do landscaping.
Sure.
I'm not asking for a landscapes architect to come in, but Rich is pretty good like that. Something densely
That's not.
planted.
I would say that the buffer would be critical would be where this hut is going to be located. Because there's gonna be a lot of trucks going in, packing, moving.
Ironically enough, looking at a two-dimensional image, I would think that myself, until I walked back there.
Yeah.
And when I would, when you're standing at the end of those arborvitae and where that parcel's gonna be, it's deceptive because it's a flattened image. You
Yeah.
cannot see that first house in the back there.
No, not here, you can't.
No, you can't. You
But
cannot see it from there.
That's right, so I really think if they're gonna put arborvitae, it would be near to absorb the sound of this hut that you're placing, because I'm sure you're gonna be having trucks deliver,
Nope, no ma'am, just our own fork
Who's-
trucks moving stuff into there.
your own trucks are gonna be,
Fork trucks,
Propane,
that's all.
Lifting trucks?
driven.
Yeah, propane-driven fork
and
trucks.
they're noisy.
I
Yeah,
guess that's yes, that could be considered noisy. No,
the noise rises, right?
right, but it's the same amount of traffic that's out there now. It's just instead of going out and getting it and bringing it into the building, they'd be going the other way and putting it in the new building.
So you're gonna put it in there to pack it and store it, and that's the end of it.
That's warehouse only, that's right.
You're
And
not
we'll
going
pull
to
it out
move
and
it
put it on,
out.
yeah, I mean, at
Yes.
some point, it's gotta be
Yes.
loaded back out and put on trucks and hauled out, so.
So in other words, you're gonna be putting it inside as opposed to right now you're doing external storage, and if anything, that might have the effect of muffling the sounds
So it's
because
going
it'll be
indoors
inside.
as opposed to the outside.
Just visually, I was concerned with visually, not auditorily,
Yeah,
but,
I-
it looked like
I
the
didn't
only
see a
place you
visual
could make that
problem.
better
Yeah.
would be in the front there, with about a half a dozen arborvitae, then
Yeah.
interspace them in between what's already there. And, I think that would be more than an adequate buffer. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
I'm just one member of this
Did we
board.
get the decision from the zoning board?
Yes,
In
that's
here,
in the
yeah.
packet, yeah,
6 conditions.
yeah.
and I think we've addressed them.
Yeah, when I was writing the staff report, you know, I did come to some conclusions that, you know, the board may want to consider conditional approval, taking into consideration, you know, Larry's favorable review, which would have been included in the staff report had I gotten it, you know, around noon that day. But in any event, a written decision I could have for the next meeting.
Well, I don't know if you'll hear it, Madam Chair.
Sure.
I'll make a motion, and there is no abutter comment. There's no abutter comment? None at all? Once, twice, last time. I'll make a motion, to have John write a draft decision and have it ready for the continuance, prior to our continuance, so that we could review it. Prior to continuance, if there's no more questions, continue to
June 12th.
June 12th.
So we won't be able to proceed with construction until then, or?
At your own risk. At your own peril.
This
At
is
your own
risk.
peril.
This decision
That's
is
whether we
dated
roll the dice.
What
2003.
is-
Your own peril.
What's
was
gonna
the
hold us up
original-
at this point if you
That was
guys are in
the,
agreement?
That was the site plan.
He has to write up the,
Oh, it's
yeah, you don't have your
ZBA.
permit yet, and then there's an appeal period. Then there's a 20-day appeal. It's 21 days.
It was 21 days after the ZBA decision,
might be
and there's
20
20 days after
get
this
it
decision too, for an appeal.
To see what they wrote.
Hold on.
You talking about ZBA?
The one we have
I got the
here,
one is 03. I thought that,
2003, the one that's in the packet.
here it is. Here it is. It's page
1905.
Bless you.
God bless you.
Page 3 of the staff report.
It's right here, too. Looks like that.
Does it mention anything about noise?
The conditions that they stated, storage facility to be built per plan submitted. Number 2, there should be no power feed or lighting installed for the storage facility or the storage containers. 3, all ongoing production, fabrication, packaging, etc. shall be within the main structure, which sounds like it is. There should be no production or fabrication outdoors or within the storage facility. Number 4 mentions us, site plan approval is required by the planning board. Number 5, the existing outdoor lighting shall be reviewed as part of the site plan approval. And sounds like we are doing that, you're not adding to anything. Material deliveries to and from the facility shall be limited to 6 AM, from 6 AM to 6 PM. And that's on your special permit, that's more powerful than we
So
can give you.
you can't use it.
There's no lighting out
Well, you're
there
not-
anyways, man, so we can't be
It's dusk to
bringing
dawn.
stuff around in the dark. Right.
Dusk anyway, so.
We're self-regulating the work that goes out there, by not putting any lights out there.
So you can't move anything around in there until, maybe you could do it before 6 AM, but
No, they can't.
after 6 PM,
Oh, right, after 6 PM.
you can't do anything, move stuff or pick,
Not outside, no, we can't, no.
not in the
There'd be no-
hut.
We don't have
Anything we'd
any
be
real
working on, we'd
intention of
already
doing
Why
do
did
that.
they
during the
put
day.
such a restriction on it? For
I think it
goodness.
was
It was
in response to the,
voluntary.
Yeah, that was the abutters that were, you know, that were present for the ZBA, that we told them we'd limit our hours
Right.
outside, and so.
Because,
They
Night.
That was
wanted
a
a
little
definitive
compromise that they
timeframe.
had, you know, just
for
asked
what
about.
reason? The noise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure just, you know.
which is
just-
understandable. You know?
They just didn't
So
want
can you
trucks
put some
coming in
more,
and out.
we're back to
we-
plan
yeah,
now.
No, we can absolutely do that.
Right.
All right, that would be good. I think we need some planning by where the planting of the hut is going. In between there
We have
and
no problem with
your.
doing that whatsoever.
That
This
would-
would
that
probably-
would
Can we
be
add to
great.
that verbally as opposed to, or do we wanna see that on a plan, or can that just be part of the verbal
Can it
decision?
be part of our approval?
We're fine with a site
Approve
visit,
with-
to be able to say, you know,
I'll
everyone
add
can
it to
kind
the
of.
plan and get it to John. You guys will have it with
Okay,
the draft decision and
yeah.
Signature page, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, if I just want to point out, Rich, this is where the storage facility is gonna be, right?
Correct.
I'm wondering for the board, a row of arborvitae here at an angle or going parallel with the,
That looks good, right down.
Yeah, that looks good,
Great.
John, I
Right
like what you're
down to
doing
the
there.
building, I think it should be.
okay.
Yeah.
Extend that road, extend that road right up.
Continue your row.
Extend
Yes.
that road.
All right. That's great, thank you.
Thank you.
In the front, right?
Yeah, in the front too, where we were talking before.
All right,
I think that's the benefit more than anything.
Yeah, so,
Yeah. Inter,
And that one would be up
Down that way as well.
We have to do that up high, right? That-
I don't know if that row is actually, I don't know if that row is representative of, exactly what's there in the field right now. I doubt it is. They were a little long and spindly. Let's put it this way, look at it, and if you can stand in that driveway and see the house, you haven't put enough, right? That's the goal.
All right, so we need a continuation, a motion to,
Motion to continue the public hearing to June 12th?
Second?
are we ready to vote? Any questions, discussion? No? Okay, ready to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
How did we do for time?
Thank you.
You're
Aye.
welcome.
Wow,
You're okay.
we're doing great. Motion for a 5-minute break? We're doing so
You're
well.
running downstairs.
All right,
We're doing so well.
okay.
I didn't hear a second though.
All right, second, go have your 5-minute break.
Okay, we're back.
That was good.
Madam Chair, if you'll hear it, I'll make a motion to reopen the public hearing for 54 West Main, I believe is that? 51. 51, excuse me, 51 West Main.
All right, second.
Are we ready to open the continuation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, you're up.
Good evening. My name is John Colantoni for the record. I'm the applicant and represent Triple Quality Development LLC. With me tonight is John Duggar, our architect, and Thad Berry, our engineer. You have seen Nancy McCann with us in the past. She is still part of our team. I won't do as good of a job as she does, but she's away tonight. And where the neighbors sort of got held up at the last meeting with the problem notification, I didn't want it to delay to another meeting, so we wanted to come and start the presentation, tonight on everything. So just a quick overview, which I think most of you are aware of. 51 West Main Street is the old settlers' property. We have started this project back in 2017, before we owned it. We had roundtable discussions with the different departments at Town Hall, 3 of them to be exact, and started the process from there. We officially purchased it in March of 2018, so we've owned it a little over a year. And over that year, we've been in front of the Historical Commission Committee, who gave us a letter of support, as you may know, unanimously. Also, the Economic Development Committee gave us a letter of support unanimously, and we're in front of this board for that unanimously voted the concept of the plan. And now we're back, as you know, for the definitive, because the Zoning Board of Appeals approved the special permits needed for the project. So that's just kind of a quick preview. What we're doing with the project is it's about a 1.7 acre lot. We would be doing 7 residential units in the back of the lot, sort of facing the pond. The front of the lot, this is the existing here. Pond is over here. The front of the lot, we would be taking this down here and restoring the main building closest to the street, and then doing an addition that would match it going here. So this is what you'd be seeing when we do it. Here's the existing that would be restoring. Here's the addition that would be doing. Here's the 7 townhouses. 2 of them 3-bedroom, and 5 of them 2-bedroom units, all roughly about 2,000 square feet each of living space. The plans that that have been submitted to you by our engineer shows the septic system area, shows the parking. We're not asking for any waivers in any of those situations at all. There's parking for the townhouses. They have their own exit. The commercial building, as I call it, could be a 28 to 30 seat restaurant of some type here. And then the rest could be either office or retail space. And the parking and the septic system requirements for that are all to the greater of what that would be used for. So, again, asking for no waivers. We have 3 curb cuts presently at the site. One is here, one is here, and one is over here. With the new project, we would have 1 curb cut here, that would be 3 lanes, and 1 curb cut here. So what I call the middle curb cut, one of them would be going. So the actual square footage of the curb cuts decrease a little bit. One thing that comes in mind is we have public parking along the side of the street here. So you actually would not lose any spaces. You would think going to 3 lanes that you would lose a space. You actually don't, and I can have Thad address that a little bit. But you could actually gain 1 of 2 spaces with what we're doing with the curb cuts, if the board wanted that. And the reason for the 3 lanes is 1 is to enter, and then the other 2 or for exit, so it's easier to turn right or to left going on to West Main Street 97. So I know we're short on time. I wanted to just give a quick, overview of that. I'll just give a couple color renderings, and then through the chair, I wasn't sure if you'd like us to concentrate on drainage, on parking, whatever the board would like. That's just the front color rendering of the townhouses. This is color rendering of the restored front building. And then, just to give you a little idea, when we were last in front of this board, when you gave us the letter of support of the concept, there was some talk about, could we soften the back of the building a little bit? So we actually did that. So this is the back of the building, and if you notice, it's utilizing the colors of only one or two colors in the back, compared to each unit being different colors like the front is. That made a huge difference. And also the roof lines have been changed. So it was really nice at one of the ends of we've been in so many meetings. At the end of one of the meetings, a couple of the neighbors approached us that saw this, and they actually liked this back of the building. And I also want to thank the neighbors. A lot of the neighbors, no matter we may not agree on everything, they've been very helpful. They come to a lot of the meetings. And we've learned a lot about the site and different things. And we've tried to take some of their concerns and put it into the project. So that's one thing that came about from talking to some of the neighbors, and also that time that we were in front of the planning board. This just gives you a view from the other angle in the back. Another thing that's come about with this whole thing is with the water back there, there was some talk that we put a fence so people can't get from the townhouses to the water, which we think would really look bad. And there's been no fence there for, umpteen years. And now it's actually gonna be watched more than what it ever has been. So the design of the drainage creates a natural border that, doesn't make it easy just to go to the water. So it's a natural landscape, which Thad can talk about the drainage on that, our engineer. But that sort of concept not only came up with the drainage, but came up with the idea to give it a little bit of a wall, even though it's not a wall, to divide that water from the backyard of the units. This gives a little sky view of the back. And this gives a little sky view of the front. And this is what I was talking about, for those that are familiar with the site. See the 3 lanes here, entrance, exit, exit. If you know the site, there's another curb cut here that now is gone. So if you took this, the linear square feet of this curb cut and the one that exists here now, it's actually more than what this one would be. And the one on this side, I believe is 20 and a half now, and would be going down to 12. So that one's even being, squeezed in as well. So I'll turn it over to questions or what the board direction that the board would like to go. I know it's been a long night for you already.
Well, your traffic, if I may, start it off. Your traffic analysis, I'm sure it was very thorough, but we all know what the traffic is on East Main Street.
Yes.
Nobody has to tell us. But the traffic on the site is what we need to know about, and I didn't see anything addressing that. That's a lot of traffic. Coming in, out, you're gonna have a restaurant, you're gonna have parking necessary for the homes that are there. And that's where we need an analysis, how this is gonna flow.
Well, I think and it's a great question, but I think the analysis speaks for itself on site. And what I mean by that is all the zoning requirements, all your bylaws, all the parking is met. So me not knowing them like this, I'm gonna turn it over to Thad just for a minute. to talk about the parking for the commercial building, because we meet all the requirements with no waivers for that parking.
Correct. The front building obviously meets the requirements for the number of parking spaces for what could be a restaurant or commercial retail. We obviously took the more conservative count to take into the
You want
parking
to point that
spaces.
out to the, on this chart here, so we know?
It's probably better to look at the, so the parking for the front building is here, here, and here. The units all have parking in the garage, and then they have another parking space next, so they can actually go into the garage and have a space next to it without blocking the garage. We also included visitor parking spaces over here, which was not required, but we recognize that there'll probably be visitors, and we provided spaces for.
5 over there.
Yep, yep.
All right.
So actually, if these wanted to, you could have a car parked in front of the garage and another car. So there would be a room for 3 spaces per unit, which is, fairly good. And again, we're giving an exit only for the residents. They'll come in the entrance, but they'll be able to leave on this side. We all know what the issue here is on West Main Street, is when you're leaving the site, it's the left turn towards the intersection. That's why we have 2 exits here, because obviously going to the right won't be an issue. It's usually pretty clear and pretty free. It's the left turn that's the more difficult one. That's why we gave 2 exits, to allow somebody to go right, and then the other one. So most likely you'll probably have backup here on the left side. So that's really kind of like an overview of the parking.
That does, I saw the plan as well, and I don't see that as safety parking, a plan at all.
Julie, I have to say, I kind of share that, and I've looked at the traffic flow as you're proposing right now, and I have a lot of concerns about it. I have a number of concerns about it, but I'd really like to hear from the abutters while they're here. And, that's more of a technical thing that we can deal with later on.
Okay. Would anyone like to start? New butters to this project? Yeah, come on out.
Hi, how are you? My name is Raquel Valcourt, and I live at 14 North Street. So on the plan, I am right below, yep, right there.
All right, I see you. Matthew and Raquel.
Raquel. Yes. So I wanted to come before you because my husband and I have several concerns with this project as it's submitted. And quite frankly, it's unlike the 2 projects that you've already listened to. I mean, this is not a project that is well outside the 100-foot buffer zone of any of the wetlands or the vernal pools. This project, frankly, is trying to put the cart before the horse. They haven't gone before the Conservation Commission to get what they need. And in fact, 2 of the townhouses are substantially in the wetland area, the 100-foot buffer zone, and almost all of the back of all the townhomes are within the 100-foot. My concern is not just that. I think that this plan is a little bit aggressive, and I think it's a little bit presumptuous on what this town is going to allow, but the concerns that I have are particular to my property. Since Settlers has closed down, I know that we have had a huge rodent problem. A lot of the abutters have had that, and I think that if you were to tear down a significant portion of that, I think that that will severely impact our quality of life. I have 3 kids, and we moved to this town because we have an acre of land and we play out there. When we were finding, a lot of the neighbors were putting bait traps out there, poisoning, obviously, because they were coming into their homes. We were finding dead rodents, like giant dead rodents on our property. And so we have a huge concern and wondering how this plan is going to address any kind of vermin or rodents that will obviously come out from any demolition and subsequent construction. Another concern that I have has to do with, I guess it tangentially concerns the traffic. I know you guys were discussing the traffic, but the problem that I have here is that if this is my property right here, and this is our backyard, you have a very busy section. So there could be people that coming into these townhomes here, which essentially flood with their car lights, and essentially coming right into our backyard, and essentially illuminating everything we do in our backyard. But if there is a lot of traffic for the retail space, which I'm sure the applicant is hoping that this is a successful location, should there not be enough parking, this is where all the excess people are going to go. They're going to go towards the back, see that it's residential, maybe try and turn around, maybe even try and go around. I just think that the traffic here and the light that's going to be emitted from all the traffic is going directly into our yard. I presume that these are trees that they are going to try and build these circles here. However, I don't think that enough is being done to make sure that the light pollution from all this excess traffic is not going to impact the neighbors. Additionally, one of the things that I know is before you is also the stormwater. An issue that I definitely have is because there is this buffer zone, there is this wetlands, any type of, I don't think the before one is here, but if you look at the before one, they're pretty much paving over a lot of what's there. Most of the gravel, most of everything is now becoming paved, it's becoming townhouses. We're going to have a stormwater issue. I know they're trying to address that. However, as we all know, with septics, if that isn't addressed, you can hypothetically say it's going to be addressed, but my concern is it will change the water table. So that's a $40,000 problem for me, because when my septic fails, everything is running down this way. I don't know if you've done a site walk, but this all goes downhill, and it goes downhill right into my property. And this is all the wetlands. There's vegetation. We've had Steve from the Conservation Commission come out for a separate reason, just because we were interested to see what was down there, and he's definitely noticed that it's definitely wet. We have bunnies that live there. We see a bunch of wildlife. And all of that, I think when you shrink down the area that the stormwater can go, where these animals can live, I think it has a huge impact, and it'll have a huge impact on our property, and it'll have a huge impact on the fact that the back of our yard is essentially, at this point, peaceful and tranquil, and you're essentially putting all of this impervious material there, which will not allow that to happen adequately, and I think it will have a negative effect on my property. I have other concerns just regarding, minor things such as, I know noise is going to be an issue when there's construction. Are they going to be allowed to do dumpsters at certain times? Are they going to be allowed to, are they going to have to stop construction at certain times? I know most of that frontage area is commercial, and so the businesses are really there during business hours. But, as you can see, there's at least 5 of us here that live here. We want to make sure that, at 6 a.m., someone's not emptying out a dumpster, and we all probably work late, we work hard, and we want to make sure that our quality of life, simply because we're kind of in a commercial district, isn't different from those people that live, say, in the residential cul-de-sacs where they have the beautiful, peaceful, conservation land behind them. I think that we deserve the same, and so I'm just asking that the board be mindful of that, and that's something that we are looking for. And just as submitted at this point, I know that we are opposed to it as submitted, and we would look for significant changes if this project were to be improved by the planning board. Thank you.
Can I speak to that?
Pardon?
I'd like to, if I may, because she brought up a lot of great points.
All right, yeah, let's wait till we hear the audience, because we're time frame here.
John, you know what, if you could sit back here and let everybody come up and have the table. Is everybody signed in, name and address?
Oh, yeah. Does that go to you?
Yeah.
Show and tell.
Everybody
so-
signed in?
Can I hand that to you, or?
Sure. Pass it around.
We're getting a submission with.
Sorry, I don't have the,
We're getting a submission with documents here. So,
Okay.
this is,
Sorry, I don't have the resources to do fancy drawings, but,
this appears to be a 3-page
Where do
drawing
you live,
with
sir?
an enclosed letter. and we'll we'll enter that into the record. The letter is from Stuart and Tricia Krupnik. I was just going for the glasses because I really couldn't see. They're from 55 West Main Street, and it seems to be a 3-page letter to be entered into the record.
Yeah,
2
2-page letter and then a couple of pictures.
And
a couple
some
of
photos.
pictures.
Great. Okay.
So we're at, as I said, we're 55 West, so we're the house next door, the Gold House, next to
This one here?
Silvers.
Okay.
That is correct.
That's you.
And my wife, Tricia. So, for the record, we're for development. We, in town, we think nothing's better than, adding to the town businesses, shops, restaurants, if it's done right and in a reasonable way. I mean, right now, we have 2 abandoned properties on each side of our house. I mean, I think if anybody knows our house, that we've put a tremendous amount of work into it, and
It does look nice. I saw it today.
thank you. We have a lot ways to go, but
Big improvement.
we thank you. So we do have some major concerns, and the biggest concern is the proposed driveway that's going to run between the properties. So the area is very narrow, and therefore traffic would literally be inches from our property line. We just put in the new black fence, and that runs all just about right up to the property line. So we're concerned that any large truck or plow would could take that out. Of course, noise from 14 plus residents' cars and visitors exiting at all times of night and day, and then of course the loss of privacy. So when we were at the zoning board, they said that some type of screening should be placed there. And so I think on the plan, there's a proposed 6-foot privacy fence. If it was natural screening, that's so narrow, I'm not even sure where natural screening would be able to fit in that spot. But if it's a 6-foot privacy fence, which according to the drawings, looks like it's on our property, but I would expect it's not, because that's not acceptable. But let's assume that it is not on our property and there's a 6-foot privacy fence. So there's where I put the pictures. That's where I have a picture. So the first shot is from our house looking down the sidewalk towards Settlers. And then I, best I could, added a fence into the picture. So, someone going down the sidewalk in that direction would never be able to see a car coming down that road. Could be a stroller, could be kids walking, joggers. And I have a shot from the other direction. So the other picture on page 2 is if you're in that driveway heading towards Main, and so a driver wouldn't be able to see anybody coming down the sidewalk either. So that's our biggest concern. So what we're asking is that the planning board not approve the proposed driveway running between our property lines. We don't understand the need, and there'll be major risks to public safety, as well as a likely decrease in the desirability and therefore value of our property with the traffic going by. Did have Chief Cudmore come out. He has concerns as well. I think he submitted a letter to you about that, and so that's our issue as abutters. We also have bigger picture issues, which then I'll now speak for 5 of us abutters all around the back, Prospect Street, cross and then one across the street, which I can provide you that.
Those 5 abutters are here, by the way. We've asked Stu to speak on our behalf.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter. So I am speaking for the group of abutters. I think all of us are direct except for the one across the street.
All right, tell me the name so I can check them off here.
Yep, Peter and Barbara Angelopoulos.
We're
11 Prospect.
11. Okay.
They're listed on that letter in front of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, we have that.
You got that one. All right.
Pamela, Tim, and David Sheehan at 13 Prospect.
Have that.
Janice Thompson, 23 Prospect.
Okay.
And Dan and Haley Borelli, 54 West Main.
54 West.
West Main Street, yes.
So I apologize, you said 5 neighbors and that's only 4 addresses unless I missed one?
Him. You got him?
Huh?
55.
You guys want in?
Sure.
All right, so we have 6 now, so we have, I'll let Caroline speak for,
55?
you're at 50.
58?
Across the street.
Okay.
And so we're all in favor of development. So something there, done right, done within reason, great. You know, I think the overall theme is we feel it's excessive, especially the 7 townhomes that will literally take up, you know, our backyards and be, I mean, they're right up to the property lines. And 3 stories, blocking sunlight. I mean, I know those aren't necessarily things that are, you know, that are black and white, but you know, we have concerns about the traffic. I mean, I have a copy of the traffic study. We urge you to scrutinize that traffic study. I read it, and it's a little surprising to me about the average speeds, and I think the conclusion, if I could paraphrase, said it will be a minor inconvenience to the new residents and virtually no impact or minimal impact to current commuters. And that the average speed is 30 miles an hour on that road, which they did the study during rush hour. So I mean, we look out the window and see cars going 40 and 50. So 25.
Okay.
So just in general, I mean, as far as we're not experts when it comes to drainage and septic, and also we expect that you will scrutinize that as well. But we request that the planning board not approve the residential plan as proposed, and request a reduction in scope so that there are fewer residential units.
Okay, can we have that copy?
Yeah.
You have signatures on it?
I don't.
So it's a letter with no signatures.
Yeah, I can get them though.
If they're here.
Pass it around.
Get some right there.
Pass it around.
Grab a pen.
Okay, is there anyone else? Come on.
I'm just gonna sign this real quick. Hi, I'm Barbara Angelopoulos. I live at 11 Prospect Street. I've been here for quite a long time, since the 90s. It's been great, we live downtown. My concern is also the traffic pattern. As everybody knows, I live on a cut-through street. I have 2 boys, there's other kids that live down that street, which my concerns are when they look out to proposed driveways and they see all the traffic on West Main Street, they're gonna take a right and go into Prospect Street and go by Pearly School to cut all that off, which people do now. So you're looking at 14 cars potentially with 7 houses, not counting guests or delivery trucks or anything. When they see that traffic, they're gonna say, I'm not going that way, I'm gonna take the other way. So that's one of my concerns.
I
because
do that all the time.
I know. And my kids are probably out there playing basketball and, and I have,
Human nature, it's human nature.
Right. Everybody does it, and I know that. But my concern is now more people are going to start doing it, and everybody knows the park is down there, and we have a lot of kids that go across the street on the park, that come to Richdale's, go back down the park. So that's my concern, is more the traffic as well. And again, I agree, we would love to have something in the back there to make it so much prettier for everybody and make everybody's value go up. On the other hand, I think 7 is very excessive. I mean, right now, we also have a water shortage every summer. I have a garden in my backyard. My concern is about shade for my garden.
Shade from this
The-
project?
Well, because the house is abutting, like, 20 feet from my yard is gonna be a townhouse.
Oh.
I'm sorry, my
Yep.
apologies.
That's okay.
Can we get a better idea of which parcel
So
you're
see
looking
the
at?
pond? Keep going, keep going. Nope, go back. Right there.
That's your
me.
backyard.
Nope, the other one.
This one?
That's one. Yep, that's me.
So you're the first one.
I am.
So this project is gonna shade all the way over there?
I don't know. It could. I don't know. Depends on what they put up. If they put fences, if they put trees, what depends how they put it up. Like, I'm not sure how they're gonna, the privacy fence, I don't know where that's gonna be, if they put trees instead. So that's my concern. I
Okay.
don't know. So,
So traffic and the shade from your project. Anything else?
well, you know, and the water runoff and everything that everybody else
You
said.
have a
I
problem
drove.
with that, with your drainage?
I don't, but I have like the wildlife. We have bunnies that live behind us, and we have everything. We're also concerned about the traffic, the noise of the construction and the timing. You know,
well,
are they
that
going to
was-
go after how, like the delivery trucks? Are they going to come in and out at all hours of night?
Okay.
You know, also the lights coming in. There won't particularly be on our property like they will with the other people, but we'll have the backyard people. Backyard people. People that live there and they'll have, they'll be in their backyards.
Okay.
But that's about it. So it's really more the traffic is my whole thing.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Thank you for listening.
All right. Is there anyone else now, so we can wrap this up? Nope. Okay, John, what do you got to?
Let's see. Again, with this project, we could fit it back in our schedule for the second meeting in June.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I know we had a very strict limitation on that, but we did really well on the other two. Perhaps we'd be able to hear from the board on this
Yeah.
tonight, so that the applicant would have the benefit of hearing that.
We have one more hearing to, we have another.
And I recognize
And
that.
it's, okay, I'll give you half an hour. That's it. I'm gonna cut you down.
I hear you.
All right. John, wanna wait or you wanna
Well,
go for it?
I'd rather go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I just want to bring the board up to speed. The Conservation Commission is reviewing the project, and they're in the process of
I think
figuring out
so,
what
if
they're gonna
Steve
do.
made a trip out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they are, and they have been for quite a while, looking at the project. We're doing our thing, and our schedule allows, our deadline for this project is August 10th. And Larry Graham has said that he would complete his initial peer review for this project at the end of May, which is next week.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
He's busy. Okay.
And refresh my memory, is this a special permit or just a site plan? Site plan?
For us, it's a site plan.
It's merely a site plan review?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And we have a drop dead date? That could be extended if we need it,
If we
right?
need it, yeah.
And I really have some serious concerns about that, Madam Chair.
Okay.
What we have here before us is pretty atypical with respect to site plan review. With most site plan reviews, you're looking at a single use that you have to concern yourself with for the traffic flow naturally, but also for buffering and preventing nuisance to the abutters. Sometimes that's an easy take, because in a commercial district, the next door neighbor is a commercial use, so you don't really need that much buffering. But here we have a commercial use that we have to concern ourselves with for all of those purposes that we have to surround ourselves with for site plan review. And in addition to that, on the very same lot, we have a, in my opinion, very intense residential use. And we need to concern ourselves with that from that perspective as well. So we need to protect the residents from the commercial and the commercial from the residents.
Right.
And so this is really two site plan reviews in one. And we need to get this right, because if we don't get this right, we'll never get the other mixed-use ones right. So I anticipate, I see this as being something that we're gonna be working on for a long time. This is gonna take a little bit longer than your regular site plan review, at least in my opinion. And I personally have a lot of, well, I'll go into my reservations later. Oh, yes, yeah. Could you do me a favor? And,
Sure.
One of the things I looked at here, because the driveway opening is 33 feet wide to be proposed, I don't feel as though that's a necessary thing. I feel as though it's actually a detriment to public safety to have a wide opening like that proposed. It's been past practice and history of this board to take these wide open expanses of curb cut and narrow them down. And a prime example is the Dunkin' Donuts Plaza, which has a one-way in and one-way out for public safety. We recently, not so recently, but also applied the same level of thinking, if you will, to the Danvers block, Georgetown block, where Honeydew is. That used to be this wide open expanse of anybody go anytime you feel like it. And that was a nightmare, say, traffic-wise. When they
People still
came.
do it, but yeah.
Oh, I know, but you can't help scofflaws. But the bottom line is, when the planning board had site plan review, what we did was we asked them to restrict the size of the openings, narrow those openings down. One way in, one way out for traffic flow. In my opinion, 3 lanes is a hazard. People in traffic, waiting at a light, they get edgy, they get nervous, they're in a hurry, they're gonna scoot in, they're gonna scoot out, they're gonna be going from all over the place. I firmly believe that in this situation, a very narrow opening, a narrower opening, with only entrance on that side, coming down along the tree line, and visual buffers, those green blobs there are just my very, very crude way of showing visual buffer, intensively planted buffer. Because in addition to the traffic concerns for coming in and going out in a safe way, I also look at it as though you're gonna be tearing down the building in the back. And when people are standing or driving by on North Street, excuse me, not on North Street, on West Main, the view they're going to have is not gonna be in character with what we're used to here in Georgetown, small town, that it's highly out of character to see a block of large scale, for all I can call it, a tenement house in the view. That scale, if you can't change that scale, you need to obscure the view from that scale. And the only way I see it is with very, very densely planted islands to protect the view. I think something on this idea would allow traffic flow to come in, would allow you to do your parking up near the commercial site with the commercial use. The exit from the northern side, again, one way, and anybody that would need to go to the residential dwellings would turn right and go around. If I can borrow your laser for a minute, man? Do I need special glasses or anything? Try
It
not to.
doesn't show on the TV.
Oh, it doesn't show on the TV.
No.
What a bummer. Okay.
You can show it here if you want.
Here you go.
Oh, that's not
Go
up
ahead.
there though, unfortunately.
Very.
Basically, what's happening? Basically, coming this way, the traffic will come up, and exit that way. In here, one lane, out that way, one lane. At this point, only residents only can take a right-hand turn, and they'd be down here.
Oh, gotcha, okay, I got
Okay?
gotcha.
So, what we're doing is we're protecting, we're keeping that, not industrial, but commercial traffic far, far away from your residential dwellings.
Could I ask a
And
question, because I was confused, but is it, so would part of that be two-way?
Yes, it's only two-way,
So this is two-way
That's
right
the
here.
only, from there, yes, that's the only part
So
that's
everyone
two-way.
enters here,
Exactly,
comes around,
yep,
and I'm either leaving,
right,
or if I'm a resident, I'm going like this.
yeah, there you
But
go,
all the exiting traffic is gonna go out this way.
exactly.
Okay,
Assuming that's a 12-foot wide roadway.
well, it's,
Is that a 12-foot wide roadway?
right now, it's what then?
What's the proposal?
Yeah, 12 feet, yeah.
It's proposed to be 12 feet?
Yep.
That's with no barricade though.
Yeah.
You're coming up Stu's, right on Stu's side that he talked about.
What is it?
Well, John, could you scroll up a little bit there on that PDF?
This is yours, here, so
Right.
I'll go back to.
Well,
yeah.
no, that's, if you scroll up, that's a PDF, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the page, you can scroll up. Yep, keep going. One more, I think, one more, I believe. Yeah, okay, there you go. Width of access drive, this is right in our regulations, site plan approval. Width of access drives, if you notice K2, and parking aisles. Access drives and parking lot aisles will be at least 12 feet wide for one-way traffic. So it has to be at least 12 feet wide.
There's no problem in us doing this to meet your guidelines.
Mhm.
And we were originally doing what I call natural fence, but throughout the meetings and stuff, if this was gonna happen here, we talked about a regular fence, a 6-foot fence here. A 6-foot fence can be done here on our property and keep this at 12 feet. I think the negative of what, with no disrespect on what you're saying, is we've been trying to take the concerns of this neighbor, and only people that were exiting this were the residents. Now, with what you were talking about, everybody that comes into this site exits this way. So I thought that would be a worse situation, because it's not like it's not something that we've talked about. So the other thing is, by just natural grade, these are set down. So this site, when it's completed, will meet the character of Georgetown more than it has in the last 50 years. These townhouses.
We could disagree with that.
Well, not with what's
Quite
gonna
a
be.
scope issue, but.
Not the way it's gonna be done.
The front maybe, but.
Not the way this is gonna be done. So this is all, and I agree, there's 7 townhouses here, they're all good sizes, I agree 100%. So if these were stacked up here or something, then it doesn't meet what I call the village downtown Georgetown. But these are lower than here. So the only part of these that you really see out here is in this area here. So I agree with you, it looks a little bit different. I want everyone to remember, now when I say this, it's not a threat, I don't want it to look like that, but this is a commercial piece of property. By right, we could do stuff here that we don't have to get any approvals for, all right? That are going to make a way worse situation. We're trying to do something here that actually scales this property down to what could be done there, and also redo all the wetlands. It's gonna be better for the wildlife. I have 2.5 acres in Ipswich that I live on. I'm all about wildlife. I'm all about trees and wetlands. More than half my property is wetlands. So what's gonna be done back here is going to be way better than some commercial project that takes up the whole lot. In addition to that, we talk about this pond, and we talk about the water that's there. We talk about the wildlife. That could explain it better than me. But all the drainage of a lot of downtown goes down to that. That's what's creating the water down there. And it's all unfiltered. Like, nothing is done. So when this project is done, the drainage and the water that's back here, this is gonna be way better for the wildlife than what's there. I mean, if anyone has walked that site, I mean, it's unbelievable. The rodent problem, there's no doubt in my mind that there's rodent problems that are coming from this building and have come from this building for the last 25 years. So the Board of Health has regulations when you do demo that you have to do certain things to protect that rodent problem when you do the demo. So could there be an influx a little bit during that project, just like there could be some noise during the project and a little bit of inconvenience? Absolutely. Anyone that sits here and tells you differently would be lying. But when the project's done, there's going to be less of a rodent problem, because you have homeowners of $500,000 homes that are babysitting the place that has never been babysat before. So I think people really need to look at what's there, what's been there, and what could be there compared to what we're proposing. So if my lawyer was here, she'd tell me to shut up, but I'm gonna just tell you the truth. And I've said this in every single meeting. I've said that this day one, since I've met John. Conservation is totally separate from planning. And planning has to do their thing. If conservation does something different, and we have to come to you, and we have to spend more money for minor or major modifications, that's on us. So we realize that. It's not our first time at the rodeo. So the planning board shouldn't be saying, you know, conservation, I'm sure they got them some say in this. Well, of course they have some say. But I can tell you this, I have partners in this project. The reason this project is going in this direction is because of me. My partners wouldn't do residential. This would be fully commercial. There'd be way more traffic coming in and out of here. And I guarantee you with what I heard from the neighbors, they wouldn't like what would be going here. So with that said, they're letting me do this if we can get it approved. If we get less than 7 townhouses here, we will not do this project. We need the 7 townhouses to make this financially viable to do what should be done to this building that was built in the 1800s. Okay? And if you notice, all the other boards that we've been in front of have been in favor of this. Zoning Board of Appeals, the last time they have voted in one meeting for special permits, I don't think it's ever been done. So that's got to tell you something about what they see in this project.
Well, okay, but I started out, if you remember, I do not like your traffic plan on the site.
Okay.
So if you can come up with some alternatives, a different design, I would recommend you do that.
Well, I think when Larry comes back with his feedback, that would be a big help.
Right.
And I think that would be eye-opening for the board and us. Because I have to say, Thad and John and myself and our team has spent hours upon hours trying to come up with something. And this is what we found was the best. The neighbor that lives here, I apologize, I'm horrible with names. Her concerns down the line are very legit. When she talks about pavement, there'll be less, and I know you're not gonna believe this, because I didn't either, there'll be less pavement there now than what's on the site right now.
Okay.
Because all this is disturbed, and again, Thad, I'm sorry, I won't use the right engineering terms, but it's like gravel type.
And as far as your request of 7 homes there, you don't need the 3-bedroom places. You could have 1 bedroom instead of 2, which would cut back some of the parking and drive traffic. You can, well, that's, I tell you right now, the way this traffic flow on the site, I'm not for it, definitely. And you would not get my vote.
So Mr. Chair, my question is, what Harry was talking about the 1 in and 1 out, do you like that?
No,
So do you have any suggestions?
I'm not the designer.
Okay.
And I don't want to.
But you chair the planning board, and you have the say in a vote, and you're saying that you don't like the design, even though it's come from people with over 40 years' experience designing much more difficult sites than this. I respect that, Harry. He doesn't like it. He comes up with an alternative plan,
You have professionals that can do this.
and we've done it. So I guess we wait till what Larry comes back, and then we collaborate to see, you know, what can be done.
I'd like to just say, why not mediate this whole thing and use this for both residents and commercial, and make 1 lane for the residents only to come out. Everybody goes in the 2 lanes, and they have in and out with the 2 lanes, and this is fenced off, so only the residents can go out on that side. It's just another
So
alternative.
you're basically saying.
I'm saying think outside the box and
Right,
come up with another plan.
And what you just said, we did. So we thought about doing away with this.
Yep.
We thought about making this wider, so you have 1 in,
Yep.
you know, just for the residents, and then everything exit this way.
Yeah.
But making this wider, we were actually concerned with some of the things that have already been said on how wide this is now. So that's why we went to this situation. Also, this is closer to the intersection, so we thought diverting some of this exit, like, because these people can't exit going in either direction here, we thought was a better situation. So your idea, we actually bounced around.
Okay.
We're excited to see Larry's remarks.
Well, he's not going to be the end all.
Oh, I
whatever Larry
understand.
says, it's still the board,
Larry doesn't vote.
yeah.
I believe me, I know that.
But the other thing is, since you wanted a suggestion from me, is if you're going to have a restaurant there, the parking that you have closest to the building,
Right here?
no, the other one,
Right here?
yeah,
Okay.
those people have to back out, and cars are going to be coming in or out right there. I would not park there myself, so I don't think that's a good spot at all.
So you don't like these parking spaces here?
No.
Okay.
That's mainly it. To me, I think you can come up with a better. How about a where you have the existing parking by the front building and the side, right there. How about a way of making a turn and coming around a circle and going out the same way, where you would have go to the far north side, near that side, make a circle around there, come back, and then out. One way, all the
Like a
way,
one way all the way around.
all the way around it, in the front.
One-way loop.
So you come in here,
Yeah. Come in there, park, then you're going to come around in a circle. Come around. I think you got drainage there. Have the cars going around that.
Well, actually, they would come back out that way because it's double loaded. It's a two-way street between those two banks of parking.
Yeah, but what you're going to have is you're going to have the cars coming right straight out of the parking lot.
And
You're gonna
Not backing up.
The problem
Not
with that
bad.
is that you're directing every bit of traffic by the residentials. And the challenge here to do site plan approval to balance the need of the residential alongside the commercial is to respect the nuisance factor that we're allowing this residential area now to be made nuisance by the industrial. You have to give them
Each
a
have their
modicum
own
of
space.
privacy. Yes, they need buffering, and, you know, design whatever you want, do however you feel as though it's appropriate for you and economically feasible for your investors and yourself. But as one member of the planning board, if the scale, while I'm not asking you to cut it back, I'm asking you to hide it. Hide this. And the plan really, as far as buffering, I know you have a very nice landscape plan, but the landscaping is not buffering. You know, it's not doing it, it's not separating it, it's not hiding it. You need to prevent the visual blight that is going to be this 7-unit, I don't know what it sort of looks like,
for your construction is on how many acres? Just the construction part.
when you say just the construction part, you mean?
Right, in the
mean
back
this?
of those houses to the front. What is that acreage there?
I-
2? 1?
I don't even think that.
Not even that.
No.
No, not even 1 acre.
Well, if you just look at it visually, it's about 20% of the site.
Yeah, the site is 1.7 acres.
So, yeah, but you're not building on all of it.
No, I know that. So what John was saying, I agree with. If it's 1.7 acres and you take these buildings and this, and just visually, like it's not even a third of the site.
And in that district, we needed 1,500 square feet for the RA if it was a residential zone. So you would get how many houses out of that? How many units?
I apologize. I'm a little confused on
Yeah.
where you're going with it.
What I'm saying is that the downtown area, there is residential houses there. The lots are small.
Yes.
1,500.
Right. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so you have 7 on less than even an acre. If you added all that up, that should be like 80,000 square feet if it was a regular home.
Right.
In a
but it's
residential zone. The fact that it's in commercial doesn't mean anything in that respect, because you got the special permit to put housing there, otherwise you wouldn't be able to.
Right, and we followed the bylaws of
I'm sure
Georgetown
you
to
did.
the T.
I'm sure you did, but my point is that site is by far unique in Georgetown. No other place has got that many units in that small an acreage.
So I'm gonna agree 100% with you, it's unique. It's one of the biggest dumps I've ever owned in my life.
Well, that's...
And I hate looking at it, and I can't wait to start the project, whatever it may be.
That's why when we came before, we agreed the concept is good. The concept would be better if you would do an alternative to that site for traffic.
Right, and we will try to do that.
A little bit here, Madam Chair. I think ideally, you know, what you want to do, fine. This driveway, and I'm sure you've looked at everything possible to make the driveways work and everything else, right? If you could do this project, I'm just suggesting this, eliminating this driveway, all right?
Which we
completely.
can't approve anyway.
Which driveway, I'm sorry?
We can't approve that anyway, it's not 12 feet.
No, eliminating this driveway, right?
Which driveway? I don't know where you're pointing.
It's 11 feet. The western.
It's 11 feet in the backside.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Right, now, in this area here, just listen to me, I've been doing this for a little while.
I'm listening.
About 35 years or something to that effect, okay? Now, listen. Am I interrupting you?
Okay. Go for it,
Now,
John.
Okay, now, you have 3 lanes, 1 ingress and 2 egress here, all right?
Yep.
Now, you have parking here, including handicap parking here,
Yep.
right? These people come in, right? They're backing out right into these 2 lanes.
Yep.
That's not good.
Excuse me.
Yep.
So, anybody exiting, you know, they have to get out of it. These people are all stuck here. If you're gonna do a coffee shop or anything in there, you know, you're gonna have a decent volume of
In
AM
and out,
traffic.
yeah.
Right? What I'm ultimately getting at, right, if you could reconfigure this area, so this is your one and only driveway in and out that services adequately the residents and the commercial use of the property. And then start doing stuff in here, adding the parking you need to replace these spaces. And this becomes green area here. I don't really think this driveway, although it looks good on paper, you're coming out and it's almost a blind situation with the existing structure and the abutting property. It's a driveway that really doesn't lend itself to being there.
So let me just understand what you said. You're talking about doing just 2 lanes here, 1 in, 1 out.
Wait, no, this is what you're gonna have to do. You want a certain density, and you want a certain amount of commercial density along with the residential. You have to figure out, you know, what the capacity is of your 2 lanes, if it's going to be 2 lanes of travel, 1 in, 1 out. You have to do that. You don't want 10 cars during any peak hours trying to get out of the property, nor do you want, you know, traffic backing up on West Main Street trying to get into the property. You know, if you put a busy coffee shop in there, because we don't know what ultimately the uses are going to be, but if you put an attractive coffee shop in there, what happens with the Dunkin' Donuts, what happens with the Starbucks, or anybody that has a real good cup of coffee, everybody gets windows. You have queuing that you can't imagine, but it happens. And that queuing causes problems. We don't want traffic backing up onto West Main Street, you know, and interfering with that flow of traffic. You know, this has to be planned right. You want something, we permit it. We have to look at and analyze everything. We haven't even gotten Larry's review back.
Oh, I know.
And we're not expecting to get his review back until the end of this month. I would suspect that what we really want to do as a board is to get his review, you know, review it and add to it, you know. But, you know, we're not gonna
Thank
get
you.
there until we have it, and we'll and Larry does a real good review. And if
He's
he
very thorough.
calls for, you know, a more thorough traffic analysis than what he'd like to add in his peer review, we can get that done too.
Okay.
But I really think we really gotta know what we're doing and doing it right out at that ingress. And I'd rather see 1 driveway than the second one.
Well, I just, for the record,
all right,
we
we
did
gotta-
3 exits specifically
Yeah.
because of the problem that we felt.
You know what, why don't we do this, just so we're all in agreement, okay? What you have, and I'm sure you studied it and you've done everything you can, but you know what, we need a third set of eyes here, professional eyes, traffic-wise, and, you know, we may come up with a better plan. And
Okay.
That's what we're ultimately trying to do. We wanna make sure we do this right.
That's right.
And I think you wanna do that too. It's not a one-way street when you're designing it.
What
You
day-
want-
Absolutely.
You want what you want, the abutters want what they want, and the planning board makes the decision based on a thorough analysis.
So what date are you thinking of for us to continue it?
And this is not going to interrupt anybody else's time. What we have to do is plan on what we need to do, and I'm saying the 26th, the second meeting in June. And that would-
Second meeting in June, okay.
And
Didn't we already put one on the? on the
we
June meeting?
we did already, but
We-
that will bring a total of 3. We're getting really good at this.
Maybe we should go to July with this, to give Larry the chance to actually look at it. He's gonna be looking at it and.
Well, he's supposed to
he
have it by
might-
the end of the May, though.
Right, but then he's gonna
John, did
have
you-
comments and it sounds to
Guys
me as though
accept the
there's
site
gonna.
plan review application?
What's that?
Did you guys accept the site plan review application as a vote?
Yes, we did last meeting.
Last meeting,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but,
Nancy
I look
leave
at it
the
as though
notes?
Larry will have to get his comments to the engineer. They may wish to make changes in the plan. Give them enough time to
July
actually
might
do
be
it.
good, because they have to come up with some
Yeah,
alternates.
the first meeting in July, I mean,
We can't, I'm just gonna be honest, we thought that we were gonna be on, and so did Nancy, we thought we were gonna be on June 12th, because Larry was going to come back by the end of May, and we were gonna turn it right around. If that's not good for the board, then June 26th would be good for us, but July is not good for us.
Are you coming
Are you
in with
withdrawing?
some alternatives?
Are you withdrawing, sir?
Are we
Are
withdrawing?
you withdrawing?
I don't even understand the question, why would I withdraw? All I'm saying is he was going over dates. Do you want us to withdraw?
Well, I wouldn't prevent you from doing it. I'd make the motion if you wanted to, but I think this board needs to determine when it's best to take this issue up.
Right, I was
Continue
just
this.
sharing our date situation, so Larry has given us the impression that this is gonna be in by the end of May. You need to review that, we need to review it, we would turn it around with what he gives us on suggestions on what we can do and cannot do.
So how long would it take you after
We
you
would
get
do-
Larry's?
And that's what I was trying to say, Eric.
One at a time.
June 20, we don't have the
Make it.
time?
You won't make it.
For
You
June
won't make it.
12th, for June 26th.
June
For
26th.
June 26th, you'd have to get it in a week before that.
And we would,
With alternatives?
Okay.
of course.
Oh,
All right.
Okay, oh, amazing, okay. I guess your
Okay.
engineering department
June
is
26th,
working
is it?
only on this project. Excellent.
So how many other June 26th do we have,
This
Phil?
will be the third one.
this is it, no more.
The applicant said they will get the information to us. I was more concerned that
Yeah.
they would not be able to get the plan revisions by then. I'll make a motion to continue to June 26th.
Thank you.
Second, sure.
All ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for all your time, appreciate it. And all the
Hopefully you're ready.
suggestions.
Hopefully you're ready. I've seen things like that go sour.
I hope it doesn't. We try very hard.
What happens
I don't
if you
get
have
emotional.
I just do. All trying to enjoy It happens.
Very good, yeah.
Revising plan. Larry then doesn't have the plan. They still have to get that all in. They don't.
We'll get everything to you.
Maybe their engineers are.
Okay, we've gotta get moving here, you guys.
Madam Chairwoman, I would like to recuse myself as being an abutter to the next project.
Folks, could you have your conversations out in the hall? Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you. For listening to the suggestions.
Hi, how are you?
Bruce is on his way out, so he is recusing himself. Okay, for the next hearing, which is, what is it, Lake Ridge?
1038 Lake Ridge Avenue.
Madam Chair, I move to open the public hearing for 103A Lake Ridge Ave, one lot subdivision plan, for the written request of the Open the public hearing.
You're doing good, so let's
You ready?
keep it rolling.
I see a
evening.
butter notification went out, that's for sure.
Pardon me?
I see the butter notification went out. Still people in the audience.
Yeah.
Did you get the green cards?
Yes, they did.
You gave them to John? John's got them.
Yep,
All right,
dropped 'em
great. Super.
For the record, I'm George Zamboris, with Atlantic Engineering, engineer for the project, representing Mary and David Swenson. Everybody have minutes?
I have drawings for 554.
I can ask.
If you could get another copy of that.
Well, the existing site is identified as 103A Lake Ridge. 103A is just the town's parcel number. It does not have a lot number because it doesn't front on a roadway. The lot is separated from Lake Ridge Drive from the Massachusetts Electric property.
And do you have the easement?
We don't have the easement yet, no, we've applied for the easement, we couldn't, I'll get into that.
Pardon me?
Well, we
I'll
can.
get into that.
Okay.
Okay, go get into it right now.
All right. We submitted a draft to the power company. Mass Electric owns the property. National Grid is the operator and manager of all their property, all their operations. We sent it to National Grid. We sent to
When?
Miss, pardon me?
When?
Back in September.
They haven't gotten back yet.
And, but we sent it to them asking if they had any, what they would like for comments and, or any additions, deletions, whatever. We didn't want them to approve the easement yet because they made some stipulations that were less than the town standards. So if we had an easement approved, and then the planning board came back and wanted to go wider, then would have to go back to National Grid in itself. We're applying for court. It's a one-lot subdivision. It can't get any bigger. It's always gonna be one lot, and essentially what we're doing is building a driveway.
Can we have a copy of what you sent and what they responded to you to back up what you're telling us today?
I can get it to you, yes.
Would like that.
Can I ask a question,
But
Madam Chair?
Sure.
You require 25 feet.
That's the court regulations require a 30-foot wide right-of-way.
Right.
National Grid came back and said that they wanted to limit the easement to a 25-foot wide easement.
Okay.
So that's 5 foot less than what you require for a court regulation.
Okay.
Your court regulations, I believe, John, correct me, at 24 feet of pavement?
Yep.
We were only proposing 18 only because it's for a single lot and it never can get expanded. They came back and recommended they only wanted to have a pavement width of 15 feet. So we designed it, crossing the easement portion, crossing Mass Electric's property based on their requirements. Then we expanded to 30 feet wide within our property, but we maintained the 15 feet. If we had an easement.
No, 18, it's 18 feet width for a court.
18 feet width,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
18 feet.
Yeah.
And then we're asking.
The underlying, the easement.
It's 30.
30, the easement's 30.
Okay. 18 pavement, underlying easement, right away, if you
Right.
will.
Right
needs
away,
to be
correct.
30 feet.
To be 30 feet.
And you asked for 25?
No, we asked for 30. They came back and said they only wanted to give us 25.
So you're at an impasse.
That's why we didn't that's why we didn't have them grant an easement yet. We're before the board here to waive the requirement of the 30-foot to a 25-foot only solely within the 50 feet we're crossing Mass Electric's property. So it would be foolish on our part to get an easement granted if we, and then come before the planning board and find out we had to go 30, then we'd have to go back to National Grid, Mass Electric. So what the process that we wanted to do, which we thought was the best route to take, was to find out what National Grid would allow us to, would grant us for an easement, come before the board, see if we could try to meet almost as much as the subdivision regulations that we could possibly make. We know we were gonna ask for a few waivers, and if the board was willing to approve that, they could approve it subject to us getting the easement from National Grid. Or we could just, once we knew the board was satisfied and we had a plan that was going to be approved, then we could submit that plan back to, we could continue this, submit that plan back to Mass Electric, National Grid, get the easement, show the board the deed, and then you could finally sign off on the project.
Well, John?
I have a question. We're up here, right?
Yes.
Now, this is the right-of-way of Lake Ridge?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, let me turn this page in. This one.
I just want to get the boundaries of the property.
The right-of-way is yes, that's what you're following right there is the right-of-way.
So technically, the power line.
The right-of-way is right here.
The power company they have frontage.
Power company has frontage on Lake Ridge from here to here. So actually, this lot over here, if Lake Ridge didn't come around the corner, I mean, this corner lot, their frontage is all along here and over here, except half of it is owned by.
Yeah. I'd like to stay on this because it's important. So this property is effectively landlocked.
Correct.
Okay, it has no access or no frontage on any constructed roadway.
That's correct.
I know you've done a lot of survey work, and actually important survey work having to do with the bike path.
Bike path and many roadways.
Yeah, inadvertently.
And 33 plus years of working for cities and towns.
And what I'm ultimately getting at is, so how did this parcel become landlocked? Did it become landlocked because of that right-of-way? And it was formerly a railroad right-of-way? Or, if you can go back.
What's the parcel number?
103A.
103A. It was subdivided.
Subdivided
off of 103.
The entire thing was 103.
Okay.
So typically, when assessor divides up a parcel, the remainder of the parent parcel gets the A. Everyone else gets B, C, D, E, if they choose to go that way and not go into completely new lot numbers.
And the other thing I wanted to point out is that theoretically, no parcels should have ever been created in the United States since the time they started subdividing property without frontage.
Yeah,
and whether it was a cart path or a way to gain access to a cranberry bog or anything, everything had access.
A right to pass to go till your fields.
And over time, those rights of passage to get to your property vanished. And in this particular case, when you did your work, when did this land become landlocked? Do you have any idea what year it was?
When I don't, off the top of my head, no. John, I mean, I know I've read most of the deeds. John did some of most of the research on it. John, the owner of Atlantic Engineering.
And then
I'm not sure the exact. I don't even want to take a guess.
Now, and then
it was when the back half of the property was developed.
Madam Chairman, then what I want to get at is that Since the time of the 70s and 80s, when in the Fred and True days, they allowed for the thumbprint subdivisions, which actually resulted in driveways, and there are many of those in town.
I don't think that when when Tid owned all of that property, it took a long time before they even did anything on that area except his house.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is though, we have that court provision and lane provision in courts, no more than 2 lots.
Right.
So the whole idea here is they're trying to create access to this privately owned land, and the only way
Has no frontage.
they can do it, yeah,
Is create a road.
yeah,
You
and
need to create a
somehow
subdivision
it
road.
was created improperly, in that it was landlocked, which it should never have been.
No. I mean, they got permission from the power company to cross their property twice. They should have did it one more time. When Lake Ridge was being created, for some reason they didn't.
I don't see how anything can be done until that easement is straightened out and we get an answer.
Yeah, well, they won't give an easement unless there's a reason for it, and the only reason to give an easement would be if this planning board granted,
There-
this
Yeah, it's a
particular-
vicious
In,
circle.
in the past, we've seen deeds recorded, easements recorded, for Raji land. Faraji's land on, up on, what is it, through Central Street there? Bridge, what is it?
This is a
forget
chicken and
now.
egg thing.
That's right.
Cockroach
I mean-
and horse thing.
I
Yeah, but,
personally think he ought to withdraw without prejudice, because
Yeah,
until he
I
gets
think
a
you get
straight
that.
answer
Come
from
back when you have
them,
control of the land.
from the grid.
I don't
think
can
we
have the
should do-
control of land within a month and a half. My concern is that if we get control of the land, the way it's designed right now, is the board gonna approve it?
Can't tell you that.
Well, I know, that's what, I mean,
So
you can,
maximize.
you
That's why I'm
can,
suggesting.
you can, I know, but you can grant the subject to, you can grant approval subject to us getting the easement. If we don't get the easement, there's no approval.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
I
You
don't-
have to get the easement.
But you can grant approval subject to the easement.
We can do
No,
a
I don't
great
like
number
doing
of things. We
business like
can do a
that.
great number of things.
Well, I know.
As far as, from a level of comfort for me,
All right.
every other
Well, so
time
you want
we
us to
dealt
get
with
the
an
easement first?
Yeah, I do. And
Then I would like to respectively request you grant a continuance.
I want to hear the abutters first, please. Anybody come forward, please?
I'd like to start.
Okay.
Let me get a
I'm
paper going out here. Here we go.
No, he's getting a paper. No, I'm just moving over so you can be at the table.
Thank you for listening. My name is Joanne Testaverde. I live at 11 Lake Ridge. My husband Sal and I have lived on Lake Ridge Drive for 40 years. We are the longest residents on the street. When we moved on Lake Ridge 40 years ago, there were 7 houses. And since then, there has been 7 more. We have 14 houses now on Lake Ridge, and 1 empty lot that we were always told would most likely be an empty lot because of the lack of frontage. However, there are other concerns with that lot, and I am going to discuss a kind of emotional concern. It's a bioenvironmental concern. That lot has electrical lines running across it. Now, there is no definitive proof regarding electricity and electromagnetic fields and health hazards, but I would like to give you some statistics on the population of Lake Ridge Drive. We have 10 people on Lake Ridge Drive in my 40 years who have been there, who have had cancer or a birth defect. 14 houses, 10 people. We have had 9 cases of cancer, all women, and 1 case of a congenital birth defect. I'm not going to give names. People are entitled to their privacy. We have had 9 terminal cancer cases. I was a cancer case. I'm one of 2 survivors on our street. Right now, 64% of the houses on our street, 14 houses, have had cancer. That is a lot. That is a very high percentage for a very quiet street. Something is going on there. Asking us to put another house underneath the electrical wires and expose more people to the situation that we have been exposed to is a significant concern for myself and for other cancer survivors. I wanted to address this issue. This is not a construction issue, a legal issue, a regulations issue. This is a health issue. And I think it needs to be considered when you are looking at taking a lot that is going to need significant waivers. Maybe we need to think about waiving and dealing with the electrical system on Lake Ridge Drive. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Evening. I thought I was gonna be at the spot by now.
If you signed it.
My name is Dan Rowe. I'm at 16 Lake Ridge Drive. When we first saw this this request come through for the subdivision, as Joanne mentioned, we always thought it was a unbuildable lot. So I looked through the plans and saw that there were a number of waivers around drainage and water flow. So my main point around the water problem is that, you know, my house has been flooded twice in the last 27 years to the depth of 18 inches in my basement. I can see we have an in-ground pool that we put in when we first got there. The back wall of the pool has moved 3 or 4 inches since that time. I've seen a stockade fence with some movement. And what this tells me is there's a lot of hydraulic activity under the house, under the pool. By using that lot, excuse me, using that lot to build a house is just going to aggravate that situation further, because now you're building a foundation which is going to displace that water table again, which I feel is going to put my house at risk. And that driveway for that lot is going to run right down my property line. So that's, you know, one of our major concerns is just the water problem on that street. Aside from the problems we're having at 16, the corner of that street where it bends around in front of our house, anytime there's a major rainstorm, there's major flooding, almost probably 50 feet from the corner all the way down the street.
There's a dip in the road.
Well, whether there's a dip in the road or not, it doesn't drain for at least a day or two. So that tells me that there's a drainage problem on that street somewhere.
Okay.
Secondarily to that is if you put a driveway coming out of 103A, you're going to have, I mean, already my neighbor has, they had a berm built at the end of their driveway to block water flow from the street down into his garage. So by changing the hydraulics in that lot, it's just going to funnel more water in the direction of his house on top of everything else. So the big problem that we see is that we currently have a drainage problem on the street to begin with. By adding another house and some way to control that water, I think it's just going to aggravate the problem further. I had sent an email to John with a lot of the issues that that we see. Regarding waivers, you know, the first thing you see is that 9 waivers are gonna be given on this project. Given the water problems in that neighborhood, I think the last thing we wanna be talking about is waivers for any drainage issues.
How far down can you dig and reach water?
I mean, I've never.
Table that high, or?
Well, I can tell you one thing is when I bought the house at 16, usually you can go into a basement, you can get a sense of whether you've ever had any flooding in there. And I never got a sense that that house had any drainage problems. I have seen, and since then I've had to put a sump pump in. And I don't know if this is partly due, I know that maybe the Parker River flow has an impact on that, I don't know. We're in a bowl in that neighborhood, so, I mean, just by the topography there, we're downhill from East Main. I am downhill from that lot, so the water is coming in that direction. I'm not an engineer, I don't know what the specifics are on that, but you know, I know that with the 2 big 100-year floods we had, I think it was in '86 and then another one about 5 years later, I could draw a line from Rock Pond directly to my house, and I know that's where the water was I mean, that's the 18 inches I was seeing on 2 different occasions. So, I mean, just in general, there's a water problem down there. Putting a new foundation in next to my house is not gonna help that. It's only gonna aggravate it. I mean, my kids were ice skating on that corner one year because it had flooded and frozen, so they had it was a nice public service that they had a skating rink there, but it's not something that I think helps the neighborhood all that much. Regarding development, I'll wrap this up quick, I know we're running late here. One thing that stuck out was that there's gonna be some drainage development right down along my property line. I think it's only 5 feet from my property line. I think it needs to be at least 10 away from my property line. The other thing is that the crushed stone French drain that they're gonna put in there, it's on the owner of the new property to maintain that and clean it out every 2 years. Well, you know, I don't know how that gets enforced, but if they don't clean it, I'm the one that's gonna bear the brunt of that not being cleaned. I mean, there's no cost to them not cleaning it. The crushed stone can be hauled away, who knows? I mean, I just see a lot of risks in this going forward for a drainage problem I already have in my house, not to mention the other neighbors in the neighborhood. And to Joanne's point, you know, it was always felt that was gonna be an unbuildable lot. I know, we all know it's sold for $10,000. That just tells me that there's no value to that land as a buildable lot if they're selling it for $10,000. I could have bought it for $10,000, but to me it just meant more grass to mow, so it had no value to me.
Are there any drains on your street at all?
I think there's a couple of drains in the area, but I think the drainage is over capacity is the point I'm trying to make. I think some work needs to be done.
Catch basin there?
There's a catch basin right here, there's a catch basin right
So
here.
it's-
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
So,
Excuse me, Madam Chairman, may I ask Mr. Rowe a question?
no, we're going to just continue.
Oh, I just didn't know if I heard him right, that's all, but that's fine. I can
All right.
meet him in the street. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Testaverde.
Hi, my name is Salvatore A. Testaverde, and I live at 11 Lake Ridge Drive. Thank you, I can't think and write anymore like I used to. I'd like to say at least that this lot has come up twice to this board and has been rejected, I believe, twice. And I'm hoping that the board will look into the reasons that this particular property has been rejected. In fact, on the last time, Carl Tids actually paved the road in order for him to get it approved. But the town reneged on that. So I just want that to go into the record, that that is there. And there is a file somewhere, and I hope that we, the neighbors, have an adequate chance to look at those files.
Okay.
I also know that files disappear in Georgetown, so I'm hoping that we can get... Never, I know. So any case, I like to say that I think this property was developed about 60 years ago by by Carl Tids, and that area that we're talking about, the particular lot, is basically where he was a tree farmer, and he actually stripped all the loam off of all the property and ran it through that was a loam area where he de-rocked, if you will, all the loam that he had stripped. So again, I'd like to know what's the difference specifically that would approve this lot when it has been rejected twice before. Now, my neighbor alluded that I am the fellow that had our garages flooded 10 years ago. The Georgetown workers came across our road and did some work and then left it, and we had a tremendous rainstorm, and I have $2,500 worth of damage from clothing items and furniture and whatnot in my garage. And so with that, I am frightened that we are going to be inundated with water at some time and some point, because on that, you're placing more impervious material on that lot, your driveways and your roof. All that drainage has to go somewhere. And I also believe that the pipe that comes out, all the pipes come out to Rock Pond, the Great Pond, basically is inadequate to take that amount of water. In fact, we should have at least 2 more drains. With that, I'd like to say, and I'm hoping, and I'm requesting that a DEP conduct an MS-40 stormwater management study of this particular area. Not only would it help clarify that this property shouldn't be built, but it would help us maintain the street and take off water that is always collecting and is always a threat to our homes. So basically, I am against the house, and I, as I said, I have some minor questions. I'm hoping that with this, if this were approved, some additional street lighting would be installed, and I am concerned about the way the footage is calculated for this. But I'm just going to say at this point, I haven't looked at it and studied it, but I do believe there is a footage concern.
Madam Chair, could you just clarify that, sir? I'm sorry. A footage with respect to?
The footage that gives us the frontage.
Oh,
That's
the frontage?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I wasn't clear.
I understand.
Thank you. And again, I do have some concerns, and I'm very concerned if no stormwater management studies. I will respectfully seek some kind of a legal opinion as to why that is not being done, since there has been flooding that has occurred on this road, and this is just going to add to it. And with that, I'll turn over to my neighbors. Thank you. Thank you for
Okay,
listening.
thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Could I just ask of the engineer, if you're familiar with it, because you were right on where the catch basins were. Where do the catch basins feed to, do you know?
The two that I pointed out to.
Right, one leads to
run
the
down,
other.
runs down to the property line and out to Rock Pond.
And then
There's another catch
daylight's
basin.
out in the pond?
There's another catch basin in the corner over here that goes to this catch basin. That
Gotcha.
comes down to there and it runs out there.
I did not walk all the way out to the pond to
But
find out.
looking at it, it would have to run onto private property.
There's an easement.
There's an easement there.
There's an easement going down the property line.
Okay.
The one that's closest to the driveway,
Mhm.
the proposed driveway, is on my there's an easement on my property there.
I'm just wondering about the pipe that actually is discharging to the pond.
You can see it
And
from
You
my
can see it.
dock. you
if
come-
that's
come out
crushed
in the
or
backyard, you can see it, yes.
impeded in any way.
So it's not
Maybe
going
I
into
would-
any land first,
When-
it just empties into the pond.
The catch basin.
That's not, no,
That's not polluting the water?
absolutely. That's interesting.
It's stormwater.
Okay, your,
Hello,
your name.
Paul Muskovich, 15 Lake Ridge Drive. I'm here to speak on some concerns, and it is water runoff. There is 2 drains, just to let you know. on the top part of Lake Ridge Drive,
Yeah.
before my house, that the water just runs right past them. And then it goes right into my driveway, which there is
Oh, boy.
another drain in my driveway that has no, it has no outlet from the drain. So that fills up, and I get about 8 to 10 inches of water in my driveway, then it flows into my side yard, and I get water in my basement. So in the last year, it's happened like 3 or 4 times. Back in 2010, or 2000, the bad storms that we had, obviously, Rock Pond fills up, the man-made pond fills up, the water level goes up. There's nothing you can do about that. I pumped for about 3.5 months straight. But regardless of that, it's just the water runoff, and if you zoom in on the, between my property and Bruce's property, just the topsoil has dissipated quite a lot in the last 2 or 3 years, where the fact that I can now start seeing roots from some of the trees. So the water is coming off the street, it's going across my yard and then into the pond, obviously. So I just don't see how, with putting another, foundation again and another dwelling there, is gonna do anything but make it worse as far as runoff goes.
Which one's your house?
So you're not way up
No,
there.
right down here,
Here.
yeah, right on the,
You got the,
Bottom right?
yeah,
this is it, right here by the hand.
Yeah, right on the curve.
Yeah.
So you can see there's a vehicle in the street. That's right in front of my driveway, the one on the left-hand side of the street. And then probably 30 feet up, you can't see it through the trees, but there's 2 drains on each side of the street that are useless. I know that maybe 4 years ago, Pete Durkee from the highway department said, because there was someone that was surveying, and they did come in my yard and put some stakes in and stuff, and they were saying they were looking into some kind of a drainage thing, but I don't know if anything ever happened to that, but.
You should ask them to fix the problem on an existing roadway.
Well, yeah, I have that
His
in
bag.
there, but.
That's what he does. That's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and it's.
Did we get any correspondence from Peter?
No, but we do have a recommendation for Peter to get involved with this project. Did
Good.
everybody get a chance to?
When I spoke to him, he did say he was gonna send you a memo. Evidently, he didn't.
Well, no, let's just back up for a second. We do have Larry Graham's peer review, his initial peer review. And, if time permits tonight, have you?
No, I'm saying I spoke to Peter, and he said
No,
he was
but
gonna
have
send
you, have you had any time to review Larry's peer review letter?
April 18th it was dated.
Yes, yeah, that's the one I responded to.
Yes. So that's what I wanted to, I'm concerned about, more water runoff, rainwater, and that's about it.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my name's John Kane from 18 Lake Ridge. And I have similar issues as both Sal and Mr. Muskovich. I'm at 18, which is, who's pulling it in here?
Can you pull the hand, John? You got the hand?
Yeah. Where we want to go here?
Around the bend up, right in front of Dan's house on the corner.
The other side.
The other side, right, yeah, just pull in right there.
Right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm at 18, and I've noticed that just as an additional building being put in, the house on West Main on 97, that lot used to be a double lot. Nobody knew it except the developer found it out and happened to plop in the house. I used to be the highest even numbered house on Lake Ridge, 18. Now there's a 20. Compliments of that guy right there in front of me between, that's 97 Main, that guy's right below there, right below there going south, yeah, right, that's the house that was added in 20 feet from my line. No meetings here at all, it was
That was
obviously
in-
within the zoning for the
A&R
town,
plan.
and,
A&R, right?
A&R plan.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
an A&R.
an A&R.
Yeah, I remember that.
and I don't know how the frontage is on that one, but somehow it made it. And I've noticed the runoff on my house, the soil and the whole back of the yard is mushy, whatever backyard's there. And in all the trees, the runoff goes right down the street towards the pond, and it's running out the lawn. And Dan's and my property, where all those pines are, it never used to flood, but now it's all water in there now. I don't know how much of it is the proximity and the house there, but with that house in the 103A and his driveway, like Dan was saying, run right along his and my property. I think he said 5 feet of it.
You can almost notice this whole dampness right through here. It's all trying to make its way down to the
It wasn't
pond.
as bad until 20 went in.
That dampness is the low spot in the pavement, John.
I mean, you know, unfortunately, when you're talking about, if I could, Madam Chairman, when you're talking about a 60-year-old subdivision, Judge, I know you're not that old, but, you know, things weren't
I'm
done.
67.
Well, you weren't practicing engineering at 7.
No.
But,
You were playing with your scale, your ruler there, I know you were.
you know, roads weren't built to the standards that they are today. You know, wetlands were plowed over, and, you know, natural drainage channels weren't even paid attention to, and, you know, so if today, just speculating here, this would probably have a culvert under it, and, you know, there'd be treatment and everything else, but everything's flowing that way naturally, and you have that breakout, you can
That would be
see
the
it.
detention basin.
Yeah, yeah, I mean,
All
it's
their
just-
problems is surface grading.
Yeah.
We went down 10, 12 feet, no water table. So all these problems I'm hearing are nothing more than surface grading that are causing problems. Sand underneath.
Yeah, it's all sand.
It's all sand.
I don't know, because there's a house, if you're putting a house there,
Take
that's,
control.
you're taking out the natural drainage.
Take control.
Okay, all right, that's, anyone else?
No, that's it.
Thank
me.
you. No?
Okay, it's
Okay.
getting late.
Can I just add one thing?
Sure.
As I said, I've been living on Lake Ridge for 40 years, and we have, at times, a 10-foot elevation of water of Lake Ridge, of Rock Pond. Now, all of that head is going up those pipes, okay, and is given resistance. It has to be studied. The pipe, more than likely, is inadequate now, but adding to it is just gonna cause more detriment.
Sure. Okay.
Can I ask Mr. Zamporis, this particular, is this a man-made wetland here?
That there?
Yeah.
That's Tid's.
I believe it is. I have to go back
Tid
to,
used it to water his tree farm.
That is a man-made.
It wasn't put there for retention, having to do
No.
it.
I used to use it for water.
Back in the old.
The town
Watering.
chased him off
It
of
was
Rock
for water.
Pond from taking water.
Nice
So
try,
we need to
John.
find-
Yeah.
In 2010, Rock Pond and that man-made pond just about met. That's how high it was.
yeah, I'm sure it did.
It's scary. Okay, we have to decide what we want to do, board.
Well, from my perspective, I hope you understand, I'm not of the mind to approve a project that does not have control of the land.
Okay.
Until you have that control of the land, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big one for vote for waivers. So, and when you're asking for, in my opinion, if you're asking for an easement, point out to them that you need a 30-footer, because that's what the planning board is. What one planning board member stated that you needed. And that's just my opinion.
Madam Chairman.
Sure.
Yeah. Did we want to hear, you must have a list of rebuttal comments that you, and I think with everybody here, it would be good to hear if you do, Mr. Zamboris. Because everybody came up here with
Well,
concerns.
I can, if the chair would like me to.
Perhaps, it's.
I mean,
getting a little bit late.
I imagine I can be very brief.
We're over.
Okay,
I mean,
I'll give you 5
a lot
minutes.
of, as I said, we did 7 test pits on the site. We went down anywheres from, some of them were for the septic system, others were for the infiltration systems. So some we didn't have to go as deep. But the shallowest one, I believe, was 8.5, 9 feet, and we went down to 12. After we get through the topsoil and the B horizon, the first C horizon, if it existed at all, was loomy sand, and below that was sand. Some of them, the loomy sand didn't exist, it went straight to sand. So we have Class A soils, less than a 2-minute per inch perk rate, although it wouldn't even hold 25 gallons when we're doing the perk test. So all these issues about water problems I hear, I mean, and I believe one gentleman said it, that the waters are going by a catch basin. Well, that's grading on a roadway. The wet area that you can see in the roadway there, I know that's a puddle. It's a flat spot in the road. The Lake Ridge Drive is, I'd be very surprised if it has 3/4% pitch. It's very flat. It doesn't even have 1%. And if you don't, that's why subdivision rules and regulations, all cities and towns have it. Minimum grade's 1%, because if you go below 1%, you get a puddle. And in this area here, from that curve to Mr. Rose driveway, I believe it is, there's a dip in the road. And so, yeah, it doesn't even get to the catch basin.
Did you
And
say that you perked it for the septic?
we perked seven locations on the site, we perked.
7 perked?
7. We did one here, here, and 2 out back. And not one did we hit water. And as you know, when you're perking for septic systems, you're using the Title V means of determining soil, you're not looking for standard water, you're looking for historic evidence, modeling of water. There was none. So what that tells me, I'm an engineer, I work for cities and towns, I used to solve people's water problems in houses. And that's what I did, and I'll tell this board, and by telling you, I'll tell the residents behind me. There are cases where a homeowner truly has a problem because of high groundwater table.
It sounds like everybody.
I will safely say, out of working in my 33+ years of cities and towns, 90% of the homes I went to were grading around the foundation that was causing them the water problem. And not true high groundwater table. So, that being said, we are asking for waivers. They're very minor. A few of them deal with the format of the plan. We are asking for one waiver of the reduction of the right-of-way width from 30 to 25, only within the right-of-way to the easement we'll be getting off of Mass Electric. We are not asking for any drainage waivers. We're asking for one stormwater waiver, which is very minor. We're not asking for catch basins on both sides of the roadways because it's a general statement that stipulated catch basins should be installed every 250 feet. Our roadway's only 125 feet. We're doing an LID, in a sense, method of drainage from the roadway. We don't need catch basins, so we technically have to ask for the waiver. We're asking that the storm drains be a minimum of 12-inch concrete. We don't have any storm drains, so we're asking for the waiver. That's the reason why we're asking for it. It says it's a waiver attached to storm drainage, but it has nothing to do with the outcome of storm drainage. We're asking for a waiver of the pavement from 18-foot to 15-foot. Mr. Graham had made a suggestion that if it was approved by the board, that he'd be agreeable with reducing the pavement to 14 feet. However, I spoke to the fire chief, and the fire chief was not in favor of that, so I did not make that change. The other three, waiver of requiring curbing at the court intersection. Well, the only intersection this court is where it meets Lake Ridge. I'm asking for a waiver because there's no curbing on Lake Ridge. So where do you start and stop the curbing? I asked for a waiver of requiring or putting street trees every 40 feet. We can put street trees on the on within our lot if the board so wanted that. Obviously, I can't put them on Mass Electric's property, but we could put them in there. And there was a requirement for the benchmarks for the site to be made out of granite with a stamped disc. I will say this is the first community I've ever seen that being asked. I'm asking for a waiver for that. Until Mr. Graham's letter came out, review letter came out, those were the only waivers. Nothing really dealing with the extent of how we deal with stormwater. But after Mr. Graham's letter, which I did, anytime there was anything to be modified from Mr. Graham's review, I did. We did not receive a response from the highway department. I went down and spoke to him. He's agreeable with it. He has no problems with anything we're proposing. I added some notation about permitting and being inspected on the plans. He was supposed to submit a letter to Mr. Cashel. Evidently, he didn't do it yet. Met Reading, I'm sorry, Passtown.
Getting late.
Georgetown Electric Light, we met out there. I did have to revise the method of how we were gonna supply power. Which I assumed, but I had to wait for them to tell me, there's an existing transformer way over here. Their existing primary feed that ends over here is not sufficient. Gonna have to run a new conduit system down the roadway and put a new transformer on the edge of the road. That was incorporated in the change plans you have right now. Water department, we spoke to them. Added some notes in the plan saying that everything should be done in accordance with their rules, regulations, and standards. They were supposed to send John a comment letter. I assume that has not happened yet because I haven't seen a copy of it yet either. As I said, all the other comments that Larry had, I included. I made up the size of the roof infiltration, made them equal. Didn't make the change of narrowing the roadway because the fire chief didn't like it. The only thing that Larry and I could not come to agreement on is, and it's on page 3 of his drainage comments number 1, with regard to TSS, total suspended solids removal. I had indicated in my stormwater report that we achieved the 80%. Mr. Graham said we didn't receive 80 because the upper layer of stone is not considered a pre-treatment BMP. I disagree with him. I pointed out to where it says in DEP stormwater manual that when you have a pea stone filter strip on the top, on the upper part of a stone filter trench, is when the stone filter trench receives sheet flow for flow, that is permissible as the use of a pre-treatment BMP. I think it's black and white. Mr. Graham just, we agree to disagree. He feels that the BMP should be a separate device. And I can show you in black and white what's in the manual. I didn't do that in my response. I just, in that area, we agree to disagree. However, the town's regulations say that all the stormwater shall be managed in accordance with DEP stormwater manual. DEP's stormwater manual exempts subdivisions from their requirements for lots for subdivision, residential lots of up to 4 lots. So if I take your regulations the way it's worded and read DEP, I don't have to do anything. So just solely on this item where Larry and I disagree what is being said in DEP Stormwater Manual, I added an additional waiver just to deal, because of the ambiguity of what really I'm supposed to be doing. I've met everything else of the stormwater regulations.
You're not at 80%, you're at.
I'm not at 80%, I'm only at 60%. So what I'm asking for a waiver is to allow me to go to the best possible I can get and go to 80%, 60%, approve what I submitted for, which is 60%, and not require me to go to 80%, which I don't believe I have to go anyways, because if I listen to DEP, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, but you're listening to all the neighbors with their water problems.
No, this is TSS removal. This is total suspended solids. This has nothing to do with recharging the amount of water. The runoff from the site is being from the 1-year storm to the 100-year storm. The volume and the rate of runoff is less than what sits out there right now. So the only thing I'm asking for a waiver on the stormwater regulations is allow me to do what I physically can do based on the LID design, which is 60%. Even though I say I'm at 80, and I can give you the documentation that says 80, I can give you other locations where DEP has actually stipulated that this is agreeable in the method to use, except Larry won't agree with it.
We'll have to deal with that when
So
Larry-
regardless, that's his letter.
We'll have to have
Other than that one item, and not getting a comment from the water department, anything that Larry wanted changed to
And
the
the
plan.
easement,
Well, I'm saying with respect to Larry's
yeah,
thing,
I got you.
I did.
All right, thank you. One more comment?
I just wanted to know about the storm drain. Is that a filtration of water system? Is that?
Doesn't sound like it. What I've heard now is just a pipe
Pardon me?
that goes right to the pond.
No, is the intent of a storm drain to be
Are you,
filtration?
she's asking a question from the applicant, so.
I'm sorry.
Is the intent of a storm drain to be filtration of water?
No, storm drainage just captures the water.
So it's a catch basin.
We're filtering the water through the upper layer of stone, and we're infiltrating all our water. So by the time if we didn't put anything in the roadway, you'd have a gallon of water entering the catch basin that's out the street. Based on what we're doing, you have a teacup. That's filtered. I mean, the 100-year storm for the site is less than one CFS and only 300 cubic feet of water. We're reducing that. Madam Chair, if you may, John, this is an email we got back from Mass Electric back in October. I'll furnish you with everything we submitted to them and everything,
That would be
but that's their response. And basically said, this is what they already had it reviewed internally. They have to formally do one more review once everything was done and everything. But they've basically approved what we submitted to them, subject to that change. So now we're gonna have to decide whether we have to push for something else.
Madam Chairman, after everything we've heard tonight, and you've been here the whole time, everybody else has been here, and most people are gone now, we're booked until the July meeting, and that's the 10th. Would that give you enough time to work with the power line?
Initially, they said 4 to 6 weeks. They said normally, but they thought it might even happen faster because they've already had some pre-reviews.
This is from October, 4 to 6
Well, that's,
weeks.
yes, no, I know. That was October, no, that was when
Yeah.
we officially request, when the homeowner sends the official request to them asking for the easement.
Yeah.
Once they receive that, they said 4 to 6 weeks. Not, this is their response, basically saying what we gave them, they're acceptable to. So if we're gonna go back to them now and say, okay, we wanna go ahead with the easement, but this is what we want, that's gonna be 4 to 6 weeks.
Madam Chair, can I ask, what's the timeline on this? We're just opening this now, it's
We have the-
10:30 at
well,
night, and my brain is very clouded.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The deadline is 8/16, August 16th. 135 days shall have passed.
So I want to move this to the first July meeting.
That's what I was thinking.
Yep, I'll second that.
Oh, righty.
Whatever that date is.
Whatever that date is.
July 10th.
July 10th. Okay.
July 7, 10, okay.
Are we ready to, continue it, huh? We're not-
Aye.
Aye.
All right, aye.
So it's July 10th?
July 10th.
This is continued to July 10th.
Yeah. No more butters notices will go out. This is date specific, continued till July 10th. If you're not doing anything that night, nice summer evening. Admission is free.
Probably,
Planning board
probably
is
not
a
having
party.
a barbecue or anything like that.
Where else can you go for free?
Maybe give a 5-minute
conditioned, too.
break,
5
go
minutes.
outside and have a drink.
Yeah, we'll.
It's really hot in my field, don't
It's not the barbecue out there.
What else is on the agenda? Nothing, we're done.
I got this here.
That's okay, I have one.
Give everybody a chance
We wanna reorganize
think
this?
about what we're doing.
Oh, our new fuzzy schedule.
Less fuzzy this time. What I did, top to bottom, site plans are separated from definitive plans, and then.
Thank you.
Thank you, good.
Right.
Look at it.
They're in the Lawson's house. They probably don't know.
Certainly, you know, when we see them.
But the house is gonna impact. Yeah, foundation, gonna impact.
They have those too. Yeah. Now, I don't know.
You need the subdivision rules and regulations. What I need? Yeah, we got the 365. John has to give it to you. Okay. So, why don't you ask him for it?
I will, I'll email him, have him send it to the subdivision.
I second.
Madam, just a quick thing. John's taken up there. I'd like to mention, Bruce is brand new, and he was just saying to me, what do I have to look up? What do I need to know?
What should I study?
Chapter 365 of the town code, and chapter 165 of the town code. The only problem is, we need to get a good, clean copy of that for both of those for him.
That's a good start.
How far away are we from having a bound copy of our subdivision rules and regulations, John, practically speaking?
Up to date.
Yeah, oh yeah, a real one. Something
Harry, what
like-
I do need from you is everything that
No, I
you
mean, I
have.
want to know the oldest of his house.
Yeah,
Okay, so if you could send me what you have, I wanna compare that with what I have.
I will send you every town meeting that we did.
Yeah, I mean, the main goal right now is to get everything done that's been amended since the last time it was updated in
Right.
2011.
And get that off to,
Yeah, I just wanna compare what I have with what you have.
to town code, get that to town code. Okay.
And
I
get
will,
that updated.
I will pull every town meeting since 2011
Wow.
where we had something, okay? Where we changed something, and I'll send that to you, okay?
Yeah, and then
That's the
there
only
are
way to
other
do it.
documents.
Yeah,
That's the
anything
only way to do
Then
it.
you can
Yes,
go
I
and
can
do that as well.
study up on what, you know.
There are great publications that I'll get to you. Don Schmidt, you know,
Yeah,
was the-
Okay, yeah, send me whatever.
I look at them all the time for reference purposes.
Shoot them over to me.
And they're
them out
actually
and
better than the state statutes, because trying to cut through those and
Okay.
Yeah, it can be, yeah, just read 40A, and
it's
it's really scintillating reading.
Right.
Yeah.
May I ask a question? Have you been dismissed yet? Have you adjourned? No? Yes, you have
We haven't
adjourned?
voted yet.
Not yet.
Oh, all right. That close. I'm sorry. I would like to know how I would get a address for the electric company who is in charge of the easement, because I would like to submit my comments to them. So could someone
John,
send
I
me
can
that
see it.
address?
It's on the
That
abutters
sheet.
list.
What?
It's on the abutters list.
She just gave me the request to them.
You get an
It must be on
email
there.
address.
As I said, as a cancer survivor, I have very serious concerns. Sorry.
Right.
No, not at all. You're not the first person.
No, I think you
Glad you're a
were.
survivor and can speak for.
Your
Yeah, really.
statement was very powerful,
What?
Joan. Your statement was very powerful.
64%?
Yeah.
I think the electric company needs to know what's going on on Lake Ridge Drive.
If I knew that, I might not have bought the house from Joe.
Well,
See?
and we have, and do you know how many little people we have now on that street? Matt and Lindsay have new kids.
We're not in any way talking about anything that has anything to do with 103A.
No,
Right?
no.
Because
Okay.
that's been continued.
All right, this is Desmond Dowling. Okay.
Desmond Dowling.
Hey, Bruce.
Interesting English name.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for allowing yourself to be writing. I know how that feels. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you all. And I wasn't the only write-in. No,
I
there were
noticed
There was
several.
competition?
There were
Yeah.
several. There were two others.
Yes.
20
Two
I had 67 votes, and there was 27 and 20 for two other people.
Wow.
I won by a landslide, 40-vote landslide. Yeah.
This way.
Crushed.
That's a lot of writing.
Yeah, 60 something, that is a lot
That is a lot of
writing.
writing.
It is national.
Quite a
We
campaign
did
going.
have a good campaign going. Everyone that was sitting here just now, I think, voted for
You have a
me.
lot of friends.
Plus a couple people
Thank you
here.
very much. Good night, all.
Nice to see you.
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Yeah, we already got a motion here.
Waiting for the
Okay,
crew.
sorry.
We're
second.
waiting for a vote.
Aye.
Ready for vote?
Aye, 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 aye.